Travis.
Hello, sir.
I'd like to welcome, Travis got to meet Paul and Kristen.
I did.
I'm not going to mention their last name unless they want to do that. Paul and Kristen's first time on the podcast. Thank you for coming.
Say hello. Hello. It's on.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh,
Hey.
hello.
Hello. Hey.
There they go.
Yes, thank you for inviting us.
Oh, you're
We're
welcome.
Excited to be here.
Oh yeah, ever since we none of us eat donuts, but we did go to a locally owned donut shop. I did buy some some decaf coffee from them, and we had a really good conversation. I felt like we had a lot of things that we can continue talking about that we didn't really get into. Me and Paul have some side things that we agree a lot on, some conspiracy theory type stuff. I don't know if we'll have time to get too deep into any of that today. Most of what we're going to try to focus on is kind of your all's story, I think, for, I think you said 2017 or something like that, whatever the year was. I'll let you tell more about that. But
I just want to say I like donuts. I just so we're clear.
so if I bring
like
some
donuts.
in next time.
I like donuts.
Okay. All
Long
right.
Johns.
I got it.
Yeah.
We go in a lot of rabbit holes.
Continue.
Okay. Continue.
Continue.
So, Kristen, why don't you just kind of introduce yourself? And Travis, you can do a little intro of yourself if you want to.
I'm Travis.
Travis. Paul. Sorry.
Don't offend him like that.
I allow his face to be on camera, dude.
Yeah. Well, you probably pay him too.
Oh, do not tell Travis, please. So just tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll try to piece together how we ended up talking for the first time, maybe with Dr.
Right.
Roy being the kind of the middle person between all that. But
Right. Yeah.
First of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And take it away.
Yeah, that's what attracted me. Dr. Arnold was my doctor for 10 years, who I loved. And we've been married for 22 years. And most of those years I've been dealing with chronic illness. So I'm kind of on a massive healing journey and healing like decades-long chronic illness. So it's nothing new, but we're really starting to make a lot of strides. Like we're turning things around pretty quick these days, where there was just sort of a lull for 10 or so years, just couldn't get any better. And
incubation period.
Yeah. I think that one part of the spiritual journey is like dark night of the soul. So it's like the rock bottom is part of it is part of the healing journey.
Sure.
So, I'm thankful for even those dark years when there wasn't any improvement, but at the same time, a lot was going on, like underneath the surface, like, your emotions surface when you're, I've struggled with disability. I was in a wheelchair outside the home for probably 10 years. I started using a wheelchair when I was 38. And my kids were 2 and 8.
There's a lot of times
that was
you
tricky.
Struggled in the home.
Yes.
Like even walking in the home.
Right. So
Like
this
it's
was
bleak.
This was a severe situation. Dr. Arnold was always like, one of my conditions is Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. And so he would always say, "You're the most severe case that I have." So I don't know if that was like a good thing, like an award that I'm winning. I'm like,
Thanks, Doc.
Thanks.
So we've been dealing with, just these rare mystery illnesses that don't have a lot of pathways forward, and thought we were at a dead end. But I don't know, just with all the truth busting forward these days, like there's just infinite. It kind of seems like tons of avenues forward that I don't have time to try all of them yet. So
Sure.
Everything that I try keeps bumping me up a little bit better. And I'm doing things now that I haven't done in 13 years. So we're kind of turning the clock back. And Paul's been like the best caretaker. It's been a little rough, but that's in a nutshell kind of where we're at. Like we're having momentum right now.
Well, it's
Agree?
to me, it says something. Even in you describing your all's journey, is you say we.
Yeah.
It's not your illness. It literally is his with you. I mean, you live those things together.
Right.
And it's a big deal for me with her getting better, as far as like me losing meaning in my life now.
Really?
Because this has been like, I've resigned myself.
Yeah.
Like, this is how we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Like, we're just going to be sick.
So she needs you a little less.
Yeah. And now it's like, now what purpose do I serve?
We're
We'll keep you busy, Paul.
Yeah, we're working with a kind of a energy healer / coach, and she has said that sometimes it's harder on the spouse, like when someone heals from a chronic illness, because their identity is sort of
Yeah.
up in the air.
I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and-
But
yeah.
it's definitely been a team. I mean, we work from home. We're very tight knit. Like we were before the illness too, but this is like just driven us closer, and we've had just a lot of profound joy, even in the midst of a lot of pain and suffering.
Sure. So, so I'm not going to ask you how old you are. You said you got it. You were in a wheelchair at age 38. So how long have you been struggling?
You'll say how old you are.
Yeah,
won't
that's
you?
fine. I'm 50.
Oh, wow.
50.
Awesome.
So
Look great.
yeah, so I'm 50 now. So it's been 12 years of, well, I'd say it was about 7 or 8 years of getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And then your mental capacity starts spiraling also, because you're so frustrated, and, that starts going. And when that goes, I honestly think that's harder to pull yourself up out of than physical healing. So, yeah, what was your question?
No, I mean, I think you're, the people really don't take that into consideration whenever you have a chronic illness. I'm not going to compare myself to you, but I had degenerative back for a long time, and it was like pain every day. And my wife had an injury not too long ago, and she has pain in her hands still every day, and it's just mentally taxing. I mean, people, if you haven't had it daily in your life ever, you don't really understand until it happens to you. And all I can say is I can't imagine being at the level that you were and having to deal with that, because my wife had to deal with me, and I was grumpy a lot because I didn't sleep very well, and I was always in pain, so I was always kind of on edge. But somehow, some way, I kind of healed myself. So
One thing that was interesting is, we were in crisis, like our whole family. Like our kids suffered, because I couldn't do a lot of things, but we were kind of in a crisis situation, like 4, 5, 6, 7 years before the pandemic. And we were very alone. Like, nobody got it. There wasn't all this information. There was some, but not bursting forward like there is now about healing. And so we were in this crisis and struggling. And then when the pandemic happened, like everybody was in crisis. And we noticed people became really a lot more compassionate, and they would check in, which was really nice.
When all of a sudden the whole world started working better for us.
That's
Right.
interesting.
Like,
It was
every
a
like,
benefit, to
for
us.
being like, as far as being housebound and like, it was just easier to do things.
Well,
Yeah.
they started offering like
Wow.
curbside delivery and pickup, and
that is such an interesting perspective.
Yeah, everybody
Right.
started doing
It was
Zoom
a pain
stuff.
in our ass.
I
Like,
know.
we were all like, whatever. And it's so interesting to see the other side. And
It was one of the
Well,
best. 2020 was one of the best years of our lives.
it was incredible.
Yeah.
Like we homeschool our kids.
Like a lot of people might throw a brick through your window for saying that.
Yeah. Well, actually, it was the year I started healing fast. So I was kind of like celebrating, and I forgot, oh gosh, everybody's really grumpy and nobody wants to celebrate. So I'd be like, come on, kids, we're going to go to the restaurant and celebrate. And they're like, Mom, everything's shut down.
We're not allowed to go to the restaurant. We'll get
Right.
arrested.
My life was so
Definitely canceled.
Isolating, shut down. I really didn't have much contact with the outside world. You start losing your friends because, I don't blame anybody, but you just kind of become sort of invisible.
Well, it's sad.
And
It's sad.
Yeah.
right.
People would tell me, they would say, well, I would see people we would know out. I'd be running errands, and I would tell them, I'd say, well, I'd just start talking. Well, let me tell you how Kristen's doing. And I'd tell them all about it. And especially as she started getting better. And they would say, people would say, well, I'm always afraid to ask.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's I understand that.
Yeah.
Because it did get bad for
Yeah.
a long time.
When you said nobody got it, so why don't you clarify what you meant by that? Because you said nobody got it.
Right. I was in so much joint pain. Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome is tricky. It causes dislocations in all the joints. Yeah, it's caused by loose connective tissue. So it's one of the more rare, unusual, and even MDs will say it's one of the more painful, like debilitating conditions. And some people get it. Some people have back pain or GI issues and are very sensitive, but how do you even describe that? People would ask us, what do you need? Just let us know. Just let us know. And it's like, I need like 70 things. I need help with everything. I could only walk like 200 steps a day, which was basically to the bathroom and back. Wow. And, you know, my kids were, my daughter was a toddler. Whew, those were hard years. But my kids actually stepped in, and I had to kind of instruct them, but they learned how to cook and clean really well. And now they sort of operate, you know, they're really considerate. If they see somebody in a wheelchair, they go and they open the door. They know how much trouble it is to try to, you know, Paul.
Yeah, nobody knows how to open
through.
doors for wheelchairs. Like, nobody knows how to do it.
They'll stand in front of it. And,
Here you go. Oh wait, you're in my way still.
but some people get it, and those are far and few between. But I appreciated the people that did check in on me. But you know, you just kind of see life passing you by. You know, watching social media is it's fun. It was amazing because, you know, there's this technology. You can see the outside world a little bit when you're shut in like that. But at the same time, you also, you know, there's a poignant kind of sorrow of like, you know, I'm not able to be out there with people. And there's a dilemma. Do I share how horrible it is and bring everybody down, you know? And sometimes I would feel like a nudge, like, yeah, people need to know. Like, people need to know. And you don't want to feel invisible forever. So...
well, the people that I imagine that may not have exactly what you had, but deal with similar things on a daily basis. I mean, having a group or some influence type people that will come out and talk about it actually, I think, is very helpful to other people.
Right.
So, and I think that's kind of your mission, based on kind of where I, you know, why I started doing this podcast. Kind of started because I got a big nudge. I mean, 2020 did cause this podcast. It also it caused a lot of things that we are able to talk about now, and a lot of people in public are talking about now, because you said truth, and we don't really always know what truth is. When you say truth comes out, that's really the journey that I'm on. Like, what is really truth? Because I might hear something that sounds fantastic, it all makes sense, and we're like, maybe not as good as what we thought. So you want to be careful knowing or thinking you know exactly what truth is.
Right.
But you can mention it because you haven't said it yet on the podcast. Tell the audience kind of what you found out about truth in your own particular.
One
thing.
Interesting thing is that my body is kind of a truth detector. They kind of talk about people with chronic illness being like the canary in the mine, like they throw the canary in to see what happens into the coal mine.
Canary dies, and it means the air's not good.
Exactly.
Right.
So, you know, I've been doctoring myself for probably 15 years and having a lot of success early on. But then after I had my second child, after I had my daughter, it's just so hard on the body. And then the demands of, you know, having little kids.
And they're
hard
so
work.
ungrateful.
I know.
I have a 7-year-old. And
Hey, hers cook and clean. I'm thinking about a tradesy.
Oh, there you go.
They're pretty amazing, my kids.
Yeah.
But yeah, when they're little, they're you know, it's just all about them. And it should be.
Absolutely.
And so it was frustrating.
Absolutely.
But where was I going with this? About the truth detecting.
Yeah.
So I've been doctoring myself and, you know, kind of staying with my head above water up until my second child was born. And, you know, every supplement that I try, every kind of thing that I do, I really just have gotten really good at paying attention to my body and listening for like little signals and, you know, do you like this one or not? You know, and if it's not good, I nix it and go on. And a lot of the things that I came up with on my own, lo and behold, when all this stuff starts coming out, I'm like, yep, they're right. Like that does work. And, you know, everybody's different. So different things are going to work for different people.
And you're not a doctor.
Exactly.
Nor
I
am I.
am not a doctor.
No one should run with this information
check
today and
with
do
your-
exactly what we're talking about.
Exactly.
Right.
This is not medical advice. But the ways that I've doctored myself, I see glimpses online and I'm like, yeah, they're right about that. And so I'll kind of follow a person for a while and I'm like, that's tracking. A lot of what they're saying is tracking because I feel the feedback in my body. Mm-hmm. So then trying all these sort of new modalities that have sort of come out in the open real bold, I just listen to my body and it tells me. That's one silver lining of being so severely ill is that I know, you know, when something's good for me or not. So that's what I would say.
So based on that, have you always been like been that way, like prior to getting ill, or were you more of a standard? You know, if you got sick, you might ask the doctor the regular question and do what the doctor said, or have you always kind of thought on your own? You know, on your own.
I started getting sick when I was 21, and I couldn't work a full-time job. I had debilitating back pain, which is consistent with Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. Let's see. Hold on. Yes. So when I was 21, I found there was a chiropractor that went to our church. And so he really educated me from an early age, like, this is going to be important for you. Like, you don't have surgery, you know, stay away from refined sugars. Like, he really educated me early on. I wasn't perfect about it, and it was the 90s. So
Yeah.
I, did a bunch of things.
You were young. You're going to go get a Big Mac or whatever it is.
Right.
That's just what we do.
But stretching, exercising, all those things were ingrained in me early on. We were kind of in a friend group that had done like a bunch of home births and stuff. And so they educated me. We all kind of had sort of a mindfulness of doing things naturally. So, yeah. But I will say, 7 or 8 years ago when I was rock bottom, I was like, I've tried all the things. I've done chiropractic massage, myofascial release, physical therapy. What else is there? And I just wasn't fully aware of, this is Southern Indiana. It's not the most, before the pandemic, I feel like I just didn't hear about these things as much. So it's really kind of opened my eyes to a lot of new things that I.
You can say we aren't as progressive as a lot of areas.
You could say
that in a positive way.
I would say that
because there's a progressive thing that gets used in politics that I hesitate using it, but we are definitely more conservative in the steps that we take and how rapid we take them. I mean, we are like, hold on, slow down. Do what? Wait a minute.
I miss like
down.
1992 Southern Indiana, man. I wish we were back there.
Yeah.
I would feel safer with my kid out playing and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you want AI still, or do you not want AI?
I still want AI.
Okay. That's so. One of the things we're going to get to around the corner here.
Wrangled AI.
I'm really interested, and this is probably going to lead us a little bit in a rabbit hole. But I don't what platforms you're on. Whether you're on Facebook a lot, is that where most of your groups are and stuff that you communicate with people?
Facebook, Instagram. Those are my two main ones. And I text with a lot of people. I do have a lot of people like just kind of reach out to me here or there. My friend just got diagnosed with this, and they just usually need a little support. So I do text with quite a few people, but yeah, Facebook, Instagram. Well,
I know for me, Facebook, and even though YouTube censors us and I don't like much about their business model, they are really getting good at predictive things, and their AI, built-in AI, is like you say something or you research something or you stay on one video a little bit too long, and then they just start hitting you over the head with them. So it's really interesting. I wonder what kind of things like show up in your feed versus show up in my feed, because I'm researching all kinds of stuff, and I'll get stuck on some things, and then they make sure I stay stuck on it because they'll just hit me over the head with stuff over and over and over and over.
I try to switch it up. I try not to follow somebody too long because I'm like you. We're searching for truth, but there's always like some kind of twisted nonsense laced in somehow. Sometimes, so. Yeah.
You used to be in groups on Facebook. Like she used to be at first she was in Facebook groups like that were around Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome, a rural medical. And it was people just getting worse and everybody talking about how there's no help and you can't get better. And everybody was just miserable all the time. And then you found other groups where people called the same symptoms other things, and they had solutions. And everybody was happy and getting things done and feeling better.
I did develop long COVID. I didn't realize it for a long time, so I tanked. And I didn't realize how to get better. But those long COVID groups, they're figuring stuff out.
Oh, man.
Like, they are on it and sharing information. It's incredible to watch. I mean...
a year ago, they would have been shut off.
Exactly. A year ago, people were like, angry about a certain kind of horse-type medication. I'm leaving this group.
We're allowed to say it now. You can say Ivermectin.
Well, yes, people can talk about politics and dislike or like it. I'm kind of on the fence whether I like it or not like it a lot of times, but and people can dislike Donald Trump all they want. But the only thing I can say is I don't think we would be having the same conversation today if he would not have been elected. Elon Musk buying Twitter, say whatever you want to say about him. He's definitely got things I don't like about him. But without Twitter being bought by Elon Musk, probably Trump is not president. And without Trump being president, we're not talking about ivermectin today. Which
You'd have FBI on your lawn right now.
They got cameras everywhere. It's fine.
He's shaking us up. That's one thing you can say.
Yeah.
And I kind of think that there's a lot of that need to be shook out
Well, everything
in
that
our world in general.
Yeah.
If everything that happened in the past 9 years happened like in the past 9 months, like everybody would be freaking out about like how much everything's changed and everybody's minds would be blown. But it's just been such a slow change. Now we're in this really different place now, and it's it just changed so slow.
I'm like from day to day somewhere racing back and forth between utopian and dystopian. Like I hear and we talk about something so awesome, and it's like, oh my God, I can't believe all this stuff's coming out. I'm so excited about all the medical stuff. We haven't even started to get into your story, but it's like all these different things. You talked about the long COVID groups. I mean, it's the same that, the things that they've been doing are now branching into other random cures and things that people are just tapping into. So it's like, that's so exciting. But then you get into have another day. Was it yesterday? Were you on the Signal group? I was in a really dark mode, dude. I mean, I listened to this podcast and it was basically, I think I have a clip for it. I might share it if I can handle it again. But it was a dude from like 1994. It was like pre-Alex Jones, and he was talking about predicting basically everything that was going to happen up to now. And he said it, and it's just now kind of coming to fruition where what he says makes sense kind of in order. Because if he'd have listened to that back then, you'd have been like, whoa, that's way too much.
There's so many conspiracies that are now true.
Yeah.
At this point in life.
9/11? Like, wasn't he one that predicted like what was going to happen?
Alex Jones? Yeah, he predicted it before it happened. But this other clip was a different guy, and it was just but I couldn't stop listening to it, and it was very it was very sad, and it got me in a dark place. I had to take off my shoes and go out and pull some weeds and get in the grass and get in the sun. And I turned myself around. It's like you just got to unplug. I had to unplug. I don't know where I was going with that, except to say, one of the things that we're going to talk about today for sure, hopefully, is that how you all might use AI in your prompts and in trying to do information gathering and truth seeking. And I'd like to kind of talk about how I do things and just see if we do things similar or maybe learn something from each other in that, because we're both trying to seek truth in the different things that we're looking at. So I don't know if I cut you off from somewhere you were going.
No.
So you were diagnosed. How long did it? So 11 years ago you were diagnosed. How many years before that had you? So you've been suffering for about 4 years before that.
17 years.
17 years.
You had
long
symptoms
time.
since you were a kid.
It's hard to, it's hard to say. It's been a long time.
Yeah. So it manifested into.
I think I originally had like fibromyalgia is what they called
Okay.
it for about a decade or so.
That was just they didn't know what you had.
Exactly.
So you had
And that's
No.
kind of still it, isn't it? It's like they don't know what.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
But then Dr. Arnold, did the EDS diagnosis, which was a little more specific. But, I think I just got wrapped up. That's one that really doesn't have a cure, And so I think for a long time, I just kind of accepted that, and I really don't anymore.
So is it a degenerative
Yeah.
type of thing? So, but you've you've seemingly turned a corner. So it's probably not degenerative. It's just that we haven't been treating it. We haven't been doing the right things to help you.
And it is clinically diagnosed. There's no test for it except, so you don't know necessarily if it comes from something or if it's just a symptom of some other problem.
Gotcha.
And I do appreciate Dr. Arnold looked into this condition and kind of learned about it and found other people that were struggling too, which I always loved that about him. And it kind of helped me narrow my research a little bit, so I do appreciate, him kind of turning me in the right direction, but I don't think any disease is too far gone for improvement. It's not just CDS, and I've seen too many testimonies of people healing things that they said were incurable. So yeah, my purpose here is just to really bring people hope and a good story. You know, after so many years of bringing sad news and sad vibes to people, I am just really excited to just say, no, it's possible to come back from nothing, you know.
There's always
come
healthy
back
things
from-
you can do. There's always something you can do healthier,
Yes.
you know, and be healthier. And
Right.
we did, what was it? Was it like when did I do that post where it was like, where we just decided like, this is it on Facebook. And I was like, talking about our food and how we're going to change this and change that.
yeah.
And it was just about,
That was 2021.
okay. And it was like I think it was just like I had gotten on board and I said, like, it's not going to be that way. We're not going to, it's not, you know, everybody says it's, you know, we're not going to do that. We're going to turn this around and we're going to fix it.
And that's another example of the we. Paul
Yeah.
took it on himself, and I don't think you've missed a day. Like, he makes fresh juices, smoothies. We eat whole foods, basically ketogenic, every single day. Everything's made from scratch. I can't really eat anything. I'm not healed all the way, and I'm, still can only limitedly eat from 15 foods. But for 2 years, I could only eat 3 foods.
Wow.
Got down to 82 pounds. So he was like, we're doing this. Like, he kind of threw down the gauntlet and was like, basically, you were going to do it. And the idea was the energy would follow.
Yeah.
And it did.
But just hearing your little wins when you talked about going outside and actually getting to spend time outside for the first time,
Right.
and you talked about getting an animal for the first time. I'm at the point now. I wish I'd have known you all a while back. That way, I would have kind of seen you before the
Right.
healing journey. So I'm trying to kind of figure out like how I can help you tell that, relate that to other people. Like, it doesn't matter how bad you are
Right.
and how bad you get and how dark things are. You can go outside and look at things and smell things you've never smelled before.
Yeah.
I mean, when we met at Donut Bank, I had no idea. I should have been more sensitive. And before you came over there, I'm like, oh my God, my wife lit a candle. And I'm like, might throw into something. So
I appreciate it, but I'm doing better with that too.
Well, that's great.
That's
great.
I'm good. Yeah, I mean, things were so dark when you are bedridden, basically, which I was in bed like 20 hours a day. You can't run anymore. You can't distract yourself from yourself. And I had to start dealing with stuff. I got so low that I told Paul all the time that I felt like I was at the bottom of a swamp wrestling an alligator and just trying to stay on top. Like, that's how intense like the emotional anguish kind of is. Because you think about it, like, even prisoners get to go outside for an hour a day, and just being so shut in. And I was so flared up that I would open the back door, and if there was heat or sun, my skin would just go bright red and prickly. And so, I was really isolated from people and nature. And it was just so intense. I think it was it was just such an intense pressure. It really was kind of a catalyst for, I went through a spiritual awakening, because you're just so inwardly focused and there's so much pain that you really are dealing with, that it just sort of forced me to deal with it all. And it was painful, but man, after I worked through a lot, now I'm able to go outside, and I think my neighbors probably think I'm crazy, but I'm just like, oh my God, look at that leaf over there. It's just incredible. So, just the little things being present. Like, if I never get any better than this, I'm like thrilled over the moon. Would you say that that's kind of...
So you may have already said this. When did you have like your first... when did you first know that something was going on? Like, how young were you whenever you kind of were normal, or you were normal? I don't think I have that bridged that gap yet.
Nobody in my family's sick, so I'm the only one.
Lucky you.
Right. I did notice I did have skin rashes. I had photodermatitis to the sun. I was kind of like got very rashy and would break out. But that's really the only thing I had as a kid. And you know, we've retraced my steps. Like, how did this happen? I think I had a lot of my kids are on the autism spectrum, and it kind of makes one think that possibly the parents might be too. So I think as a child, there was a lot of masking that I did, which is like sort of, you know, acting like you're, you know, not struggling, basically.
Acting like you're normal.
Yeah. And
We all kind of do that.
right.
I'm a pro at that.
Okay. So we're in good company.
Yeah.
You guys know what I'm talking about.
We are normal.
And
I have a trophy. I'm so good at it.
So there's like I think there's a stress that's put on the body with that. And
What's your vaccine schedule look like?
Well, so I mean, that's going to be an interesting conversation at some point, and I don't know how much you're paying attention to the vaccine debate.
Yeah.
Is autism vaccine related or not? So I'm really interesting. Hopefully September, the RFK Jr. saying we will know
right.
the cause of autism. I mean, saying that either means he's going to say there is some genetic or there isn't any.
Right.
So that'll answer some of those questions. So if it's not, it is environmental.
Right.
If you all live
Food.
if you all got if you all had the same doctor and got the same vaccines, and maybe I don't, you know, who knows? And I'm not pretending to know, but that's going to be another one of those aha and the maha moment where I'm just going to be like, wow, and then hopefully we can start undoing all that
It'll
mess.
be nice to know.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's a bunch of different factors, but yeah, I mean, I don't mind saying like I'm pretty anti-vaccine.
Yeah.
Let's see, where were we?
You're sitting in Dr. Roy's chair, so that's actually good to
Do you
hear.
feel a little tingly? Like,
I don't even care if it's a bad connotation. I don't want to, you know.
You go wherever you want. We're just
Yeah,
having a
we say-
conversation here.
Okay.
you can tell them to shut. You know.
No.
Okay.
I did not take COVID vaccine. I did in a poor moment of judgment about 2015-ish. I did take a flu vaccine. It's so unlike me because I even worked at Deaconess Hospital for years, and before that was mandated, never took it. And I just sort of did it, and I developed mast cell activation disorder like months afterwards. And that's what people are coming up with the COVID, you know, getting COVID vaccine, and they're getting things like mast cell, dysautonomia, POTS, you know.
So I think we're all purebloods in this room then, right? I think we are. All right. Good deal.
I think my last vaccine
I just mean COVID.
So
it was a flu vaccine. My last was a flu vaccine. I had not had a flu vaccine for like 15 years, and our youngest kid was high risk, and the pediatrician basically guilted me into it, and then that was the last one I ever got.
right.
So I hadn't had one since
that's-
pre-2020.
That's another
Not
great.
pre-2000. I'm sorry.
No. That was another great example of my body being a truth detector because, you know, when all this was happening, the pandemic, and they were talking about getting the vaccine going and released, and I was just like, from day one, like, heck no. You know, I already knew like how I reacted to it. And a lot of people in my chronic illness support groups they're just so aware that this really caused them to take a nosedive, whether it was like hours after or months after. If you were sensitive or already dealing with something, I'm seeing a lot of vaccine injuries in the chronic illness support groups.
They don't argue about that in the chronic illness support groups. Like they all know.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, someone will come in and say, I'm thinking about getting the shingles vaccine, and everybody's like, no. Like, it's poison.
You can't hear them screaming when they write it, but it's big
and
letters. And
I know that you know, that rubs people the wrong way sometimes, being anti, but for me, you know, and I was fully vaccinated as a kid, so all that, you know, can contribute to toxic load and autism and all that. But there was a massive uptick in my reactivity after that. So, yeah.
Well, I think we have a kind of a similar journey in that when I was born, I had asthma at a very young age. I've got a lot of potential reasons for that, but I think I'd probably just hitting puberty. I was going from a certain size to a little bigger, and they upped my dosage of asthma medication. And I had a severe reaction on day one of taking that next thing, and I thought I was going to die. My heart started racing. I was cold sweat, just like 30 minutes after I took it. And I told my mom, I'm never taking that again. And for the most part, I didn't take an Advil or an ibuprofen after that. I mean, it made me very anti-pharma and question everything. So it makes us a big part of who we are. Once you know for certain that you were hurt and harmed by something, it makes you question everything else. And some of that can be too much. I think we can do that overboard, and it makes us afraid of things.
True.
But in this particular instance, I think looking back, I'm like, that was probably a pretty good thing to be afraid of. If we could be afraid of one thing, don't trust whatever the hospital and the medicine is selling you.
Right.
I'm not saying there's not some good stuff out there. It's just the way I felt about it. But
Right. I think you asked me, was I always naturally minded? I did, for a while, I was like, okay, I'm just going to the doctor. And like whatever they did for me really made everything worse. Like I did take Advil quite a bit, and it destroyed my gut.
oh yeah, it's not good for your joints.
Terrible.
Yeah.
So I did try, you're in so much pain. You're like, well, this natural stuff, I don't know about this. So let me try going to the doctor. And it just complicated things. And I also, I don't know if you've heard of the term like floxed, which is like the class of drugs that Cipro's in. What is that called? It's like Dr. Arnold needs to be here. I need his help.
Hang on, let me call him.
It's like fluoroquinolines, I think. There's like 3 or 4 medications under that class of drugs that now have a black box warning. That drug causes ligament rupture, which, hey, that sounds a lot like Ehlers-Danlos Syndrome. So I took, I've done some like going to the doctor, but every time I do, it's like I end up worse off, and doing things naturally, it just like forms this solid base of healing that you can like move forward from. But anything medical just hasn't really worked for me.
So we don't get to talk about Dr. Roy when he's not around very often. So
Please, let's do.
Does he watch the show? Will he watch it or will he not?
I don't know. Maybe. If I tell him we talk about him a lot, he will.
Oh yeah, he would definitely will.
We should have a picture hanging up behind her in place of Dave.
Something like
Put him back where Dave the Goose is.
Was usually.
Where
out there now.
usually. What led you to Dr. Roy? Like, I know you said you were. How did you land in Dr. Roy's office?
Let's see. I think we went to the same massage therapist.
Okay.
And there was just like a little card. I think my massage therapist, Rihanna, she was like, he's great. And he had just opened the doors to his concierge practice. So, we're self-employed. I think that was around the time of Obamacare. Like we never could afford to go to the doctor. And so right about that time, I got insurance. I was like, I got to find a doctor. So I think that's how I met him. And he was just great. I mean, the first time I sat down with him, I think he spent 3 hours. I mean, I had a lot to talk about.
He didn't have any other patients yet.
Yeah, he wasn't full. But I told everybody about him and brought him a lot of customer base. And he sent me a bouquet of flowers. Oh. So, yeah.
He's a sweetheart under all that cursing and giving the ire.
No, he's great. If not, all of his knowledge, but additionally, he was always really sympathetic to all of us chronic illness patients. And he always told me, keep talking about it, Kristen, like it's important. Mm-hmm. So he gave me a lot of confidence. And even though there wasn't a whole lot we could do about the EDS, like, in the realm of what he could do, he almost always gave me a hug, and I was just always so happy to see him. And I know so many people that are they do not like their new doctor. After he retired, they're like, man, there's nobody like Dr. Arnold. So.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely a blessing having here and him volunteering his time. For me, with him, what I appreciate so much, and I don't get to tell him this because we're always talking about stuff, but like we need more doctors that are open to hearing and changing and evolving, and and ones that aren't stuck in the system. I mean, we talk about, I showed Paul the golden duct tape and the golden handcuffs. So most doctors that are attached to any of the major medical systems, and I don't know what the percentages are, but they're very high. Most doctors are attached to one of our two medical systems. And so there are things that they can't talk about, that they can't, it has to be standard of care. And if they don't follow standard of care, they can get punitive action or get their license removed or whatever. And so it's really done a disservice to humanity. I mean, really, because they can't take that individual, someone sitting in front of me, they're having an issue. Let's try this. They use the term, we're going to throw the kitchen sink at you. And, well, does this work? Does this work? Well, not everything's going to work for everybody, but something might work for you that doesn't work for her. And so we've really lost that. And so one of the things he and I try to work through sometimes is like, how do we get that back? Unfortunately, well, another fortunate thing I think of 2020 is it's put a spotlight. It's turned the mirror back around on the broken institutions and the way that the thinking and the how they're basically their medical license are attached to medical schools that are funded by pharmaceutical companies. How do you negotiate that?
Nothing wrong with that. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I've never heard of the word perverse incentives before. Like they only make money if we're getting sick. So I don't.
But you got to keep them alive.
Yeah, you got to just keep them alive enough to be able to afford to pay you. Yeah. So anyway, we're
a little cynical around here. Sorry,
a little bit. We don't get to talk about that. So, did Dr. Roy help you with? I know you shared some things that you've kind of gone through. I know some things he probably helped you with. Other things he uses the word woo a lot, and I'm trying to work him out of that because, like I said, he's evolved so much. And I'll just give you real quick, and then I'm gonna turn it over to you and let you kind of step us through what you went through on a timeline. But when we first started talking about ivermectin on the program, and we were getting censored on YouTube and whatever, we would have to basically mask what we were doing. And I said, well, Dr. Roy, before I think I was one of the first people that sent him an email talking about COVID, what it was, what I thought it was, what I was hearing, what had he heard. I think that was right around in the window of time where he was getting forced to take the vaccine.
Was that around 2021?
I can go back through the emails. That's probably about right. Because I've always been anti-doctor. Like, I don't go see the doctor typically.
Same.
My wife does, however, and my wife has been a patient with Dr. Roy for a long time as well. So they're always tag teaming me. Like, you need to go do this. You need to get that. I'm like, okay, whatever. But at the end of the day, kind of to make the point. He was very early to say ivermectin, yes, but then he made fun of me on the durmectin because we couldn't get ivermectin at any great level, and all the horse pace thing with Joe Rogan. I've got a clip if we get to clips. I don't even know if we're going to get to them, but he got mocked, made fun of, and basically almost canceled because he was taking ivermectin and not horse pace, but they basically called him a horse. So anyway, have a really, really good friend, extremely smart guy, Dave, who the goose is named after. And he started doing research. And he's like, well, you can't get ivermectin, but we can get durmectin. And he broke down all the stuff that was in it. And he's like, it's the thing that you get is made for a horse, and they're 1,200 pounds. So if you just lower the dose, right, it's not going to harm you. And we're not talking about doing it because we have to. We're doing it because we don't have an option. Or, we didn't know if ivermectin was going to get just completely removed from the shelf forever. So, yeah, of course, I went and bought a big stack of it. The reason why I want to say it, this is a long story, but I never told it before. We left here, was it 2 times ago or 3 times ago? Dr. Roy he's having some skin marks, and he's like, the first time I said I have durmectin, he's like, nah, keep that stuff away from me, blah, 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 blah. And I showed him a bunch of clips of people using it for acne and eczema and skin cancer and whatever. And he's like, yeah, what was the name of that stuff that you had? I think I'm going to stop by Rural King on the way home and maybe try that out. I've got a little skin thing and I'd like to experiment it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you can stop by and get it. I got some in there. No, I'll give you some. I'll give you mine, Dr. Roy's. No, that's okay. And by the time he left that episode, he's like, you said you had some? Yeah, he took my tube. So he was supposed to take a picture of whatever it was and apply it and see if it made any improvement. But sorry for that long story. But we don't tell it we don't ever tell it whenever he's sitting here. So anyway. So back around to you all and the journey of healing. Like, can you want to like milestones of what did you do maybe that got you to a level up? You know, I feel like you're probably gone in stages of, I feel a little better now.
Let's see. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I just was, I'm just kind of, what was your story of how I got well? You've got the Gupta, Gupta Program.
Yeah, definitely kind of crosses over into woo-woo.
Yeah.
Like that's what actually got me
If
better.
he was here, Doc
so.
would probably do this. He's going to put his head down. Oh.
Well, you're so bad off. You're like, what's it going to hurt? A lot of this stuff is just.
We say right to try now is a big word.
That's a good one.
And he uses that now.
A lot of people with cancer are starting to turn to these.
I've got
that are close to the end. They're like, what's it going to hurt?
Right.
I've got a really good inside story that I'll tell you guys about that is in our friend group of someone using it locally.
Yeah.
And good results. But go ahead.
Right. So, I kind of talked about being at rock bottom just because emotionally, when you can't physically move too, just your whole being is just kind of not good. But, so yeah. What?
Well, you don't have to get into any details. I mean, the thing that you gave me the order, the Gupta program and the hearing emotional trauma.
Right.
Yeah.
I kind of realized that I really couldn't, my emotions were just kind of haunting me. And I knew I had to heal, a lot of the emotions. And it's interesting, once I started doing that, my physical body started healing.
Yeah.
That, I think, is the component. So I did the Gupta program, which is it's like a brain retraining program. It's really good for chronic illness. It kind of helps you learn to meditate, for one, but it also teaches the autonomic nervous system to turn off. And that's sort of an issue with a lot of chronic illnesses, is that you do have these symptoms they feel like alarm bells. I mean, I would tell Paul, if you were in my body right now, you would be running to the emergency room because things are going off, like your blood pressure, your heart rate, this was actually after I got long COVID. After I got long COVID, I don't think people know this. I kind of wanted to bring some awareness to this too. I kind of wanted to go back to just joint pain. I was like, this is insane. The neurological symptoms that go along with long COVID. I mean, the people in those support groups, they can't work. They can't, not everybody, but because it affects people differently, but it's a serious, it affects the nervous system. So eating, breathing, sleeping, all those autonomic things that you just take for granted that just your body takes care of, they start misfiring. And it's scary. It's really scary. I don't go to the doctor either, but that was the only time in my history of chronic illness that I went to the emergency room. And they're like, everything's fine. That's kind of the joke in the chronic illness community. These are some pretty severe symptoms. That's what they feel like.
And
everything's fine.
You had healed quite a bit of joint pain before you got COVID.
Because of all that emotional trauma, I started watching, thank God for YouTube. I mean, I've gone to a therapist, but 1 hour once a week for me just was not enough. I needed, I just wasn't in alignment of who I was supposed to be. And it really just helped me sort out, I just constantly watched therapy videos,
education. It's daily reminders of
free.
We're on this journey.
Free therapy.
Yeah.
So I just couldn't get enough of it. I just started feeling relief there. So things started calming down a little bit, and people kept mentioning the Gupta program or DNRS, which is dynamic neural retraining system, something like that. So all these, and I've seen a lot more come up, and just within the last few years, this is probably going to be more talked about in the mainstream because it's what I see everybody doing to heal. And whether you do this program or that, it's different things work for different people. I do want to emphasize that because that's what I've noticed in chronic illness. Everybody has a little bit of a different combination of what worked for them.
Yeah. Again, we're not doctors.
Exactly.
Do your own research.
Exactly. Check with your doctor.
Reach out to Dr. Roy if you need some fill-ins.
555. Kidding. I don't know.
Right. Where was I going? What was this?
But at first, we did a lot of diet changes, or when did we get rid of all the toxic stuff in the house? Like, was that
When I got long COVID,
Okay.
you realize, like, okay, if something pushes you over into long COVID, generally it means that you've kind of had some pre-existing something or other, and or both. Your toxic load is kind of high. So we just really started looking at every ingredient, researching, like,
Is this is this food or chemical, like household chemicals?
everything? If we were storing paint in
detergents
the
or
house,
something.
we
Oh.
got rid of all the fragrance stuff, and then like if there was any like paint or things we were storing in the house, we got all that out of the house. Just like anything that, that anything that if you were to take and eat, it would give you cancer.
With with COVID, most people lose their smell, but for some reason with me, it made me really reactive to. I think it messes with your olfactory, whatever in there. So I became really sensitive. I couldn't even go out in public because of cologne, and you can control what you eat, but it was really heartbreaking because I could not go out in public because it would make me sick for a week.
When even
But,
cooking, like
yeah.
like if there was
Even
onion
natural.
or garlic or something like that, and just
Strong-
regular cooking
Stuff you would
smells.
normally love to smell.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Even things that are super healing.
I think
But,
just now you're getting where you can tolerate,
Right.
like if there's like a spaghetti sauce that has like garlic and onion in it. If we heat that up, she can tolerate that now.
Right.
You're probably still a little off-putting. Like you can
A little.
You
Um,
get like a little
That's not
nausea
so
or
bad.
something. A little nausea, or does it? What is it?
It immediately like goes in here, and then it causes this like brain storm right here. It's like brain fog, headache instantly. If you ever walk down the cleaning aisle at the grocery store, and if you get a headache, that's kind of your body kind of warning you, like, this is toxic.
Right.
Stay away.
But yeah, nausea. It took me a while to realize that they're finding that long COVID really destroys the gut, and it took me a long time to figure that out. But so yeah, the fragrance sensitivity was affecting. I got down to 82 pounds. I couldn't eat. I was reacting to everything. So we aggressively, just started throwing stuff away left and
You
right.
took the elimination diet and did it to your entire house, basically.
yeah.
Eliminated anything that had anything.
And that's
Household.
another reason that my body became the truth detector. I could smell everything. And we found interesting things that we didn't think were toxic, but like Amazon boxes, like with the printing on the side.
And
very
even just the
toxic.
smell from like the cologne or the perfume of the driver. Just
So you
sitting
get
in
very sensitive too, because once you eliminate everything out,
Yeah.
you're everything is enhanced.
Well, and
right?
even
Right.
if somebody's in the house and they have fabric softener on their clothes, then we can smell that for
Wow.
2 or 3 days usually. And then sometimes I'll smell stuff like I'll still be in panic mode. Like I can still smell it, but then she can't smell it anymore. I'll be like, okay, well I guess it's now like
I'm gonna take you guys rabbit hunting.
Over that way.
Which way? Is that a quail or is that a rabbit?
Right.
No.
Sorry, we got to add some humor in here.
With some training, I could probably get
You
that
could do.
down.
My wife's
I
got
did-
like a fragrance certification where she can pick apart the notes and stuff. So that sounds like you could probably go that route too.
Interesting.
My wife used to be able to do that with wine. Anyway,
She just drinks it now.
I know you're still going there, but I got a clarifying point here because I think you mentioned the long COVID community, and I believe there's a connection and a carryover between long COVID and vaccine injured. It seems to me like some of the same things are going on, maybe not always, but like there's overlapping things. And obviously I know you didn't get the COVID jab, so you did have long COVID for sure. And but it sounds like a lot of the things that you're dealing with are similar to the vaccine injured
Right.
types. So I
Yes.
almost wondered, it doesn't matter how it triggers whatever happened, but it happened.
Yeah.
It happened.
and you
The
were
same-
already compromised. I would say that
yeah.
too. Like you were already sick when you got COVID.
Sure.
Right.
And I think that would be similar. I mean, I don't know, but
Right.
a person with a vaccine then gets COVID. Like
Yeah, I
you
mean,
were already.
Most people that died during COVID had comorbidities,
Yeah.
which means they already had, and low vitamin D was a big one. But
And the way that people are getting sick now is exactly like how she got sick. Like we're talking to people all the time that are telling us like what they're going through, and I'm like, that's what she went through. Same thing. Like, you're going through the steps. And I'll say, like, has this happened yet?
Yeah.
Have you done this?
You're only
You and your
about 2/3
predictive,
through.
you and your predictive stuff again. There he goes again.
And they'll say, I go to the doctor and they do all these tests and they don't ever find anything. Like, they're not going to find anything,
Yeah. I'm sorry I interrupted you. You were talking about cleaning out the house, cleaning up the food. So that was like a step, and you feel like that improved.
It definitely gave me a chance to heal. We kind of bought some expensive like air doctor filters and just got the house like clear. So I had like a safe kind of place where I could heal.
It is tricky. You have to find that space to heal, but then that's how you get isolated.
Right.
And
right.
yeah,
You
it's hard to get out
the
of.
boy in the bubble at that point or something. Like,
Right.
Well, I mean, the worst part for me, like one of the things, and I'm sorry I did this. I know I was probably very insensitive, but
yeah, you are.
Even I am. I can be an asshole. What do I say? When you were talking about your journey, and I brought up the Dr. Jack Cruz and the sunlight and the earthing and all that stuff, and even the glasses, because I hear your thing, and I'm like, I've heard the same things and whatever, and I have like Dr. Jack on my shoulder, and then a whole team of doctors on my other shoulder that I've always, I use him as a sounding board in AI. So like he's written so much information out there, and so I'll ask Grok or one of the other large language models a question about how do we heal this, or what are doctors saying, or whatever. And most time Grok will go to the medical journals, and it'll pull information from things that we're determining now are junk science, basically. And so then I have to lean heavily in a direction of Dr. Jack Cruz, who doesn't believe in any of that stuff, and he goes to nature, to sunlight, to his whole thing is sit like a sphinx, and eat like a shark. So basically be outside looking in the sun, the UV, the vitamin D, and eating like a shark is about as clean of a diet as you can get. You're not eating even anything that has grown in a soil that might have contamination in it, because shark lives in the ocean and they're a filter system of themselves. I mean, he's talking about fish, not shark, but I don't want to go off on that channel there, but I stepped in and said that, and I'm like, well, that was really insensitive. She, maybe she has, and I'm just like, whatever. That's just what I do. So I'm sorry in advance for any time I'm like, yeah, haven't you tried this though?
No, it's fine. It's fine.
So
They've been desensitized.
I'm not offended about most things
That's
these
good.
days. I'm just happy to be outside of my
Well, I have a
house.
shirt that says abnormal. So whenever you were talking about normal, I should have had that on today and not this one. I just step in it sometimes. I apologize. So cleaned up your environment, cleaned up your food.
Right.
Just out of curiosity, what were the 3 things that you could eat? Just out of curiosity.
Oh, yeah.
I reacted to everything. My body was always already burning inside. COVID causes the organs to just be inflamed. Sweet potatoes, thank goodness.
Okay.
Oatmeal and pure maple syrup.
Oh, wow.
I
You
think
became Canadian.
right.
Well, and she
So
was reacting to all that too.
I was. It
but
just caused the least amount of
Yeah, we just had
trouble.
to it was like a.
So we figured out creative ways. We made.
We did liquid diet. We blended everything up so she could just slowly kind of.
For a while, I
stuff
had
in.
gastroparesis where nothing was going, and I could barely eat it all. So yeah, I had to drink sweet potato through a straw for a while. So I mean, this was.
What's funny?
There were so many symptoms. Things were so piled on. I honestly didn't know how I was going to get out. My higher guidance kept saying, "Don't think about it. Just think about right now. Just calm down, meditate. Don't worry about that. Worry about today." Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we kept going to doctors and talking to people, and she would say, I can only eat 3 foods. Nobody ever asked what they were.
No.
The one
There was
doctor,
never any mention.
somebody eventually asked, recently that we were talking to, and I said, you're the first person that's ever asked what she was eating. No doctor ever
That makes
cared.
sure
They never were like, it could be Snicker bars and Mountain Dews.
Well,
know?
it just made me wonder, what could have been in it, or what what wasn't in it, and I mean, those Canadians drink maple syrup.
She said the first 2, then she said maple syrup. I'm like,
yeah, that was a little.
I didn't see that coming.
Sweet potato, okay, oatmeal.
I could have said maybe honey.
Maple
I would have
syrup.
thought honey maybe, but then you probably allergic to.
I could for a while.
I love honey.
I can have honey now. That's one of my 15, and it's super healing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It had some kind of, it burned. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It was
Like
crazy.
felt like acid reflux or almost or
Long COVID causes severe acid reflux in some people. I just thought it was something else, like one of my other conditions flaring up. And it wasn't until I actually went to an energy healer who could see disease energy because, you get desperate, you'll try anything. But we knew her from high school, and she reached out and she said, I think I can help you. And she looked in my aura and said, I see 3 strands of COVID. And I was like, shoot. I was like, dang it. I wasn't even afraid of COVID. Everybody was like afraid. I was like, I don't know. I just kind of decided to banish fear from my life. And I started healing from that too. Like and all that emotional healing, you realize how destructive some emotions are, and like shame, fear. So I just decided one day I'm not going to feel guilt. I'm not going to feel shame. I'm just not going to feel them. And so I wasn't afraid of it, but I'm like, man, I didn't want to be taken down by COVID, but she helped me so much. I mean, besides Dr. Arnold's all, good emotional support or just, she helped me more than all the doctors combined. And I am so grateful for her. And she has just walked with me. I have her contact information if anybody wants it, because she's amazing and she works remotely. I've never even seen her in person.
Oh, wow.
We do everything remotely on
We saw her
Zoom.
at the reunion.
We did. That's how we reconnected with her.
Yeah. Well, I mean, off story. My wife, she, I forgot what they call them now. Basically, what are the people call that they do a reading on you, whatever it is. It's not energy, but it's whatever. And
like a palm reader?
yeah, no, they do it telephonic. They can do it over the telephone. So basically, she came in blind to this person from New York, and
Get out of here.
yeah, and she'd taken everything down. All of her pages were blocked, whatever, and they that she was able to tell a lot of things, talking about her grandma and her grandfather and all kinds of weird stuff. But you made me smile when you said you saw that you started seeing her. I heard Dr. Roy saying, "Here comes that woo stuff again." I feel like we need a
I could do a soundbite.
We need a clip. We need to record him,
yeah,
and anytime we're having a conversation with him, it's like
that's woo.
and to be funny, not to
sounded
shoot
like
it,
him.
not to be shouted down, but to be funny. Because
Right.
you got to have Dr. Roy calling it woo, and then we're going to prove him wrong.
Well, then a day will come when you use it against him.
Yeah, it'll be.
That's what that Ivermectin clip was about, Paul. That Ivermectin clip was about that.
I feel like that's kind of like the guy for Howard Stern, the oh my. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely need to do that.
Sound clip. Yeah.
Okay, so you went that journey was another step.
That was a huge bump up. But in addition to, I took the information she gave me and I was like, long COVID, of course. And then I knew about ivermectin just from all the chronic illness groups. And once we started working in the energy realm and then I got the ivermectin going, I started healing fast.
And how long ago was that? From the energy healing, did it all happen kind of at the same time?
With the energy healer about 2 years ago. Okay. And I had done some healing. Like I have here, I did Dr. Joe Dispenza's meditations, which I recommend because they're very powerful. But
we'll come back to that.
I still couldn't, Wendy, my mentor and my energy healer, she's even more powerful, I believe, because she's so personal, she can work with you. But where was I going with that?
I think you were going into
the different things. Yeah, you were doing. Yeah,
because she was telling me what she could see. She got this gift overnight. She wasn't born with it. It just sort of appeared one day. It's a fascinating story, but she's helped so many people, and she just figured out by just kind of trial and error, what things were and what she was seeing and what to pull out. And I took her information and kind of checked out, it checked out with my functional medicine doctor and all the tests I was having. And I started taking ivermectin, and that combo, we just started healing faster than I expected.
Where'd you learn about ivermectin?
All the chronic illness.
So chronic. That's where
I'm thinking. they were. There's,
You know that Unite the Divide podcast, right? I think I heard it on there.
Me and Dr. Roy have
I'm trying to think
been talking about it for
when I first. You know,
years.
Joe Rogan, thanks to Joe Rogan, even though they were giving him such a hard time, that brought that out to the public, regardless
Right.
of who was trying to hear him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because they were trying to vilify him.
he
so much
canceled.
for
He
it.
canceled the people that were trying to cancel him, which was fantastic.
I believe we had some boxes of the horse paste just in case because we had
Yeah.
heard, if you
Same
get
kind of story.
COVID,
Yeah.
it's helpful. And then actually, Paul got the
I
flu.
woke up, like feeling like the flu. Yeah.
And so I'd heard who's the doctor? Dr. Judy Malkovitz or something like that. That was real early on. She was promoting ivermectin, really, maybe even before the well, I don't remember. But we had some just as a backstock, like in our cache of things. And
Judy Morgan? Dr. Judy Morgan, maybe?
she got canceled, you know.
Did you get her
It's-
medical license removed? I wonder. Probably.
She got mocked,
Yeah.
for sure. I'm not sure about that. But
But I took the. So
I heard her say,
Yeah.
if you're feeling low, if you get flu, take the ivermectin. And I just was like, oh.
So I took
Paul's got
a
the
dose
flu.
of the horse paste and woke up the next morning feeling better than I hadn't. I felt different. I felt like it had snapped. I took it 5 days, and then like 10 days later, I started feeling sick again, which they say you take it and you don't knock it completely. So I took it 5 more days, and then like gained like 20 pounds after that and started looking healthier. 'Cause I was like 120 pounds. I was real thin. Just
I think we were in such a crisis mode. Things were just rough for a while,
Yeah.
Stressful. And, you don't have money to try these, some of these things are really expensive.
Right.
So I couldn't try a whole lot of things. We were just stuck for a long time. And finally, like with Wendy, for sure, my energy healer, and the ivermectin, things just really started moving. And what else did I have down here? Yeah, I read Dr. Joe Dispenza's Becoming Supernatural book, which is also like the Gupta Program was about meditation, but Dr. Joe kind of takes it a little bit farther, and you sort of learn how to basically go in an energy heal. You kind of learn to like bless your energy centers and do these 40-minute meditations a day, and it's basically mind over matter. And his stuff is backed up with scientific research. Like he has all the science, we can measure the energetic field, and he can see the neural pathways, like new ones being formed. And he's done a lot of scientific research for the naysayers, I think, to say, no, this is real science. And I think it's becoming more and more kind of accepted that, we have this other part to us that's not just physical. We have like a magnetic field. We're electromagnetic.
Yeah, if you guys decide you want to do another podcast, first of all, I'd love that. Even before we get done with this one, I'd like to take some deep dives into that and get some clips from you and really share that information. Because I don't think we can get deep enough really to
Totally.
take it beyond woo. You got to really.
You could do a whole podcast just
Sure.
on that.
Yeah, I think we should. Did you say it kind of everything you wanted on that particular part?
I think so. Yeah. I kind of realized I had a lot of limiting beliefs. I mean, I still do, I still catch them, but the brain retraining really sort of just gets you into a position where you're more aware, you're more mindful, like you're more present in the present moment. And just all of those things just started really clicking into place. And I just started being happy. You actually don't heal and get happy. You get happy and then you heal. So you kind of have to see and feel what it feels like to be healed, and then the body follows. The physical is the last thing that actually heals. You change the energy first, and then the physical follows.
Is that like term like psychosomatic or something like that? Like a part of it can be, you get symptoms and that you kind of. I don't know if that's the right term.
The way
or not.
he describes it, yeah, definitely, is that your body's kind of like a CVS pharmacy. Any thoughts, like our if you kind of think about creating our reality with our thoughts, words, and emotions, our thoughts and feelings, whether they're good or bad, after about 3 minutes of sitting and meditating on an emotion, your body starts producing a cocktail of chemicals. And they can be good chemicals that release all the feel-good hormones, or they can be bad ones that cause disease and pain. And I started really believing that and understanding that. And I just really started moving away all limiting beliefs that I could heal. Like, we started being just really positive and using language that was very positive and not defining myself by my condition. Like, I try not to say like my EDS or, my fibromyalgia.
Yeah, you say it's ours.
It's right.
You're sharing.
And I still do it,
gift that keeps
accidentally.
on
But
giving.
even just that, like, just mentally saying, no,
This
I'm
is not me.
healthy.
This
I'm
is not
healthy.
me.
I'm
Yeah.
healing. I'm whole. I'm healthy. And so the body will follow. Our
The
subconscious
simulation
mind.
will rewrite you. No,
Yeah.
I always talk about simulations.
The subconscious mind, how does it go? The subconscious mind follows our commands. So if we're being intentional and using affirmations and positive, thinking and feeling elevated emotions, the body's like a computer. It will follow, it processes what we program into it. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think, yes, I would say, mind over matter,
Well, I feel like, especially going back to Paul and circling back to ivermectin, I've got a lot of clips that I've shared, and I probably won't. I don't know that I'll share any clips today. Not really, not any real number, but the ivermectin story to me is really interesting. The level and depth that mainstream media and medicine and pharma tried to cancel it, and you mentioned something, and they're even talking about ivermectin is anti-parasitic, right? And people in Africa have taken it because their water is foul and they have parasites in them, so they take it regularly, and they were not affected by COVID nearly as badly as we were here. But the other things in these groups that I'm paying attention to are the other things that ivermectin is helping people with. I mean, types of things like yours, which is kind of a blanket autoimmune thing, which is goes all over the place. Is everything autoimmune basically? But the parasite piece of it, I think with you, I mean, if it was COVID or if you had some parasite issues, it could clean you up. And there's people that are taking it now very regularly. Like, I've got clips hitting me in the head every day. Like, they're just like taking horse pace and just a little bit every day. And it's gross. I mean, the stuff's nasty, but at the same time, if there's, if I'm such a, I look at signals and I hear what mainstream media and pharma and big medicine say, and I always want to do the opposite. Now, I mean, I start at the other side, and I think ivermectin is like that perfect thing. Like, they tried to cancel it so hard, they tried to make it look so bad that like people that are skeptics like us are like,
If you're so hard on it, there must be something good about it.
There must be something really good, and the whole cancer thing that's coming around with people. So I'll tell a quick story, and then we'll circle back into whatever. So I posted, I don't remember what it was, on Facebook the other day, but I shared something. I think it was Dr. William Mackis, and let me see if I can just pull up the clip. It's not a reel or anything, but I had a Facebook friend who reached out and said that they had a friend that had gone through some things, and they have cancer. They're going through standard cancer treatment, but on the side from that, they're doing ivermectin and fenbendazole. And I'll just give you his words. I won't say who it is, obviously.
The names have been changed.
The names, yeah. So the gentleman who is going through the treatment, I had another friend reach out and say, you need to reach out to this person. And it turns out that person is very private, and they're still in the middle of treatment. But I'm sorry, it's taking me a minute to get here. Facebook never ever cooperates with me. So he said,
I want to apologize to everybody listening.
No, it's all right.
The fans are going. No, the fan. Like I can hear the fan. So
yeah, it's probably there's a little bit of noise, but we're not sweating in here, so that's good.
Yeah.
So the friend of this person is doing chemotherapy with oncologists, but also working with Dr. Makis, who is someone we've shared clips with a lot here, and taking ivermectin and fenbendazole. Tumors shrinking significantly, and he's only halfway through the chemo. Said his type of cancer is squamous cell, and it usually doesn't respond to chemo very well. He said there's not a single doubt in my mind that the reason why the medication and protocol is being demonized so bad is because of money and greed. Cancer makes a lot of money, and if we know how to kill it, no more money for those people.
Preach on. I've been saying that for years.
Yeah.
I've had family members that have died of cancer. I'm like, I know that there's something.
Well, I didn't say that, but a friend did. But yeah, I mean, so, and that's here in the local community. And so, the word is getting out. And I think it's, people like you, Kristen, who have been on a healing journey and suffered for so long, and you find something like that, and it just helps. And how do we need a lot of studies to help us know why it helps? I think, yeah, we do. But, because that's what the first thing that any doctor is going to say. Well, there's not been any studies that say it does this and this. And me and Dr. Roy talk about anecdotal. Well, it's evidence because it's anecdotal, but only because the people that do studies are pharma and big medicine, and they're not going to fund the things that's going to remove their cancer protocols. Yeah. So to me, we're on that path, and I hope we get there really, really rapidly. So I apologize for going down that rabbit hole. Did you have something else you wanted to? I didn't know if you had anything you wanted to
I was going to say something
or refute okay.
But anecdotal evidence, I always feel like that's the only thing you can really trust because it's real people saying things.
That's fair.
All the scientific evidence is stuff that's created in laboratories.
That's what I like about being in the support groups. You can find out what actually worked. And ivermectin, it doesn't work for everybody. I do see some people say it didn't do anything for me, but I am also in the Healing Cancer Naturally groups because they know a lot about dosing, and there are so many healing stories. Like, I stay in that group because it's so happy. They'll give a testimony about what their, how their tumor shrink, or they went from stage 4 to NDE, like no evidence of disease, whatever that's called. So it's definitely helping the cancer community, but they do also say it's usually not just the ivermectin. They're usually changing their lifestyle. Mm-hmm. They'll change their diet. They're getting the toxins out of the house. They're doing the same kind of things that the chronic illness communities are starting to really do on a large scale. So, yeah, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, well, not everyone. I mean, even the people in these doing these protocols, like, some of them do a little bit different. Like, not every person responds to the same concoction, and it might be fenbendazole and ivermectin for somebody. It might be ivermectin and something else. And so I mean, we're in a trial and error period. And the real cool thing about it is, again, Twitter survived. YouTube's now allowing videos talking about ivermectin as a potential help to people. And so these things are breaking through really rapidly, and more people are trying. And I hope just more people will come out, like the person that's super private on this Facebook thread, and talk about it later. Like, if you like, here's what I went through and why.
We were at a consignment shop, and we know the lady that runs it, and we just were talking to her, and we got talking, and you were talking about ivermectin, and then some other lady was there, asked about it.
She was just shopping.
Yeah,
she was just shopping and overheard our conversation.
What you said, you sort of started defending it. And she got a little defensive and was like, "Well, I'm not saying anything." Like, she knew that she had been like. Well, what'd she do?
I know the owner, and she was like, "What's helping you?" And so I kind of told her, and the lady kind of turned around and she said, "Ivermectin," and then I just said, "Yeah, I got up out of I'm out of my wheelchair more." And she was like, I'm open. Like, she just sort of pivoted really quick.
Like, so many things have come back to bite them now. They're starting to be.
I don't really hesitate to share. The energy healing, I can't emphasize enough too, is like, a big piece of my puzzle. But I don't hesitate to share with anybody. I don't really care. when you've been isolated that long, I don't have much fear anymore of, if something's helped you that much, I really try to speak up every chance I get. And I'm in the chronic illness groups. And like I think I told you earlier, was that a year ago, people were like, pearl clutching and like, I'm leaving this group. There's too many conspiracy theories about horse paste. And now everybody's like, where do you get your horse paste?
Yeah.
Like, where are you getting it?
Just like Doc.
Indeed.
So it's really fascinating to watch the world change, honestly. It's just amazing. It's really a crazy time to be alive.
What's changed in the past year? No.
Well, I mean, I have a shirt for the podcast that I wear a lot that says I was wrong. And a lot of it is, I have to remind myself that even though I feel like I'm truth seeking, I don't want to, have self-righteous, I don't want to ever feel like I'm smarter than anyone or think that I'm just trying to get as close to truth as possible. And I think where most people, they get so set in their ways, like people won't talk about COVID or vaccinations because they're ashamed that they either shamed other people because they wouldn't do it or they took it and now they regret taking it, but they can't talk about it. And
scared about the ticking time bomb that could be in their body.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, but for us to heal and for us to do better next time, this is a journey that has to happen. And we need brave people like maybe that turned the corner for that lady in that shop. Maybe she'll look at ivermectin just a little differently because you gave her that personal tale. I got up out of a wheelchair. I don't know. It's not anecdotal evidence. It's working here. And so I guess this is, that was a great story first and foremost, but it's like we all have to just figure out a way to talk our way through this. And we have to. When
you're learning and growing, you're going to get it wrong. We're all wrong about this or that. I think part of healing is sort of dealing with your ego a little bit and putting it aside and saying,
100%.
Maybe I was in victim mentality, and you just kind of, that's a good place to be, and I think people are getting there, even the most stubborn of naysayers. I think everybody's softening a little bit. I watch conversations a lot, and I'm just fascinated with what's happening, having gone through like kind of a spiritual awakening, and I see little evidences that other people are growing and wanting to, kind of just get back to a simpler time, nature, it's a big mess that we're in, but I see good signs.
Even before 2020, we were talking about a lot of this stuff, since like 2018, and that little window there, and everybody was real receptive, and we would talk to our friends about stuff, and everybody was like real interested, and then as soon as COVID happened, like everything just pivoted. And it was really,
you could talk about certain things and nobody would have a problem with it. But the second COVID came out and people were told, that this is bad, then it was like a problem, and it wasn't before.
And the same thing would happen. I'd notice I'd be talking to somebody in person, like especially right there at 2020. I was working on a house, and I had a lot of contractors and stuff come out I was talking to, and we'd always start talking because everybody was weird and freaked out, and everything. I would talk about my weird conspiracy theory stuff, and everybody was cool and interested and thought it was. And then, then you see them online later. You're like, what?
Yeah, so
same person?
I think 2020 was the biggest psyop that the United States has ever encountered by their own country.
Yeah.
And we're just trying to outdo that one, it seems like, time and time again. The interesting thing to me, I've talked about this with several guests on the podcast, is, we talk about political stuff sometimes, and the podcast is called Unite the Divided because we are divided. Politics is bad because, you get put in a pile and you're a Democrat or you're a Republican, and so that gives you an opportunity to argue about a list of things. Like if you're a Democrat, you can't be pro this or anti that. You're a Republican, you can't be pro this or anti that. And I just think that's horse crap. We should be topically talking about things and respect each other at that level. And we may disagree a little bit on ivermectin or COVID or what it was or what it wasn't. But to me, when you said PSYOP, I think that's the thing. It's like I've always felt like we are purposefully divided. Because that's how, we're distracted, we're angry at other people rather than paying attention to the people that really are causing us the largest problems at the bloated bureaucracy level. But COVID was like the ultimate divide, and you said it in a different way. Like kind of how I described it was, you could be sitting in a friendly group of people that you politically align with. Let's say you're Republican or Democrat, and you're having lunch or breakfast or with somebody or having coffee, and COVID comes up and a vaccine comes up, and it like becomes a dividing line. Even the people that are staunchly close, and Travis has talked about that in his own family, and it's like that separates you just by in and of itself. So you have your 90% in common with this person you've been friends with a long time or whatever, and then all of a sudden you're not talking to each other, or you're angry because they didn't do this or they did do that, or they're not open to your opinion.
Right.
You know.
We were just talking about that like last night, weren't we?
Yeah.
I was like, I'm sick of the divide. Like, I love the name of your podcast. Like,
It took a minute to get there.
I've always liked that, and the red and the blue turning purple.
That was Travis.
I love that. I'm always really taken by that.
It did seem like we all used to agree about certain things.
Oh, yeah.
About like government corruption and even like what on the Barney Miller show, they have have you ever seen those clips where they're bringing some guy into the jail and he's talking about all the bankers?
Oh.
You know, and it's,
So, do you remember when you used to be able to have just a conversation that you could feel completely differently about something that I feel about? We could sit here and talk and still be buddies. That doesn't happen anymore.
Well, I think it's starting to happen again. I feel like this is where podcasts really will change the course of the country, and we can look to like a Joe Rogan who, you know, if he talks about something, it brings a huge spotlight to it. And now Tucker Carlson has his own thing, whether you agree with Tucker or not. Like he's saying a lot of things, and I don't hear and listen to everything that he says, but he provides signals. And I think, you know, if we just rely on the YouTubes of the world to create the narrative for us, they're going to continue building narratives on profit, you know, and I would like to make a little money to make more programming, but we're not making profit on it. So we just say whatever we want, and we're not going to lose our sponsorship because we don't have any.
Us. Yeah. Nobody controls our content.
We're uncontrolled. And I think that's, you know, conversations like this, even getting your story out there. I mean, your story will live on the internet forever now. And the next story you tell, that's why I tried to say you guys should think about starting a podcast. If not very least, you and I had some off conversations. We could easily sit down together and just run rampant and go in a lot of cool directions. And I'm sure we wouldn't agree on everything. And you may see things differently and in a nuanced way. And I'm like, I never thought about that way. So that's how we actually get smarter. I mean, we learn from looking at people and saying, man, you really got that one right. Or like, well, I got that one wrong. And then learning from that and moving forward. But yeah, I don't know where I was going with that.
Well,
Except
the internet format, like like I had friends, we were close friends, we'd known each other our whole lives, and then, like, you know, about 2004, I just for fun as a joke, I wrote like a website where you could post things on it, like news stories, and I just thought that was funny, you know, like because it was just like they could come and post stuff. Then all of a sudden, like within a week, we're fighting about politics on my website.
Reddit. You created Reddit before Reddit?
I think there might have been like Reddit or Dig was around.
Dig. I forgot about Dig.
Yeah. And and so and we just immediately started fighting about politics, and we immediately like started invoking Hitler. Like it just happened immediately, and we never could pull out of it.
Is that like a 3 degrees to bacon? Like everything just becomes Hitler at some point?
Yeah.
Like is that like a
I feel like we're there right now. That's definitely where we are.
What's that? There's a law like Godwin's law or something that as a argument on the internet progresses, it's probability of somebody being called Hitler approaches 0 or 1 or you know whatever however you say that.
So we've talked about a content creation destination, almost like a TV station, but online for everybody's different view. So I mean, this could be a good contributor of content over here, Chad.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's really, I hate to say it, but it really is about money and time. I mean, so you know, you work a full-time job, and I'm not paying you. You know, they're here for
the goodness
free.
Of their heart, yeah.
If we all could figure out a way to, you know, have the battle of the fittest and bring content that's not paid for by somebody with an ulterior motive or perverse incentive. I mean, that's what we have to do. And at the end of the day, that's, I think, what we're fighting ultimately is it comes down to money.
Resources,
you know,
it's time and money.
Well, that's why that's why Bitcoin is, you know, come into so many conversations for us. And the more I read and listen about that, it's kind of becoming the answer to almost every question that I have. It's kind of weird.
I keep funneling a little more. I don't have what Doc has, but I keep funneling a little more in there.
Doc might walk out of here without his wallet one day.
Do you buy
His digital
Bitcoin or
wallet?
do you buy other?
I'm sorry.
Do you buy Bitcoin or do you buy other?
I have Bit and alt. I don't know if you have any coins, do you?
I'm just doing Bit.
No, I have a few alt. I have Ethereum. I have like 4 other altcoins, but I mostly put the money in the Bit right now, only because
And I don't know enough, so I'm leaning on and I'm learning. So I'm in an education mode with Bitcoin right now. Some of the people I trust at a very high level that have sent me nothing but good signals say that Bitcoin is the best of them. So I'm using that until I can do get to the point where I feel like I'm more expert and I can make my own decisions and branch out. But I do have the guy who's the goose is named after has been investing in Bitcoin for a very long time. Like I don't even remember. We were talking about it 10 years ago. He was definitely an early. He bought into Bitcoin early, and he was up and down. He was telling me how much money he was. He put in. At one point, he was up like $500,000 on a pretty small investment, and he's played the up and down game. He's like, if I would have just put the money into Bitcoin and left it there, or just invested there, he gave me like an $8 million figure. And so, I think that test over time to me is a big one, and that's Bitcoin. If you look at what it's doing compared to a lot of the other ones, it's just much more upward, and that just to me is a little bit of a signal. I don't know how I got off on that. How about you? Are you into that?
We talked about it, and I bought some XRP, and I forget what the other thing is called. I do this. We do this kind of thing sometimes. We buy something and then we sort of forget about it. And I watched it for a little bit, and you can tell when they're doing the pump and dumps.
Oh yeah.
And we bought it on a pump and dump. We were like, did you hear him talk about it? How exciting this is! Now. It's going up. Like it just keeps going up. And then we bought it like at the peak of the pump and dump, and it just dropped down to like 60% or 70% of what we paid.
Well, my dad, unrelated to Bitcoin, but he's almost 80 years old, and he's not an investor in the stock market or anything. But he has money that's just someone else manages, and he's whatever, and like it's just had a horrible return. And he's like, I'm going to take 100,000 out of these 2 things. And I'm just going to put it in. What's the channel that's? It's a new news channel, newer, and they did an initial public
Newsmax. Was
it Newsmax?
Yeah.
He's like, I'm going to put it in Newsmax, and I'm going to blah 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 blah. And I'm like, and I've been trying to talk to him about Bitcoin a little bit, and like he's just not there. So I'm like trying to learn from me so I can teach my 80-year-old dad and my 14-year-old son, but. At the end of the day, he's like the first month or whatever. I don't remember it, but Newsmax went. He's like, see, I'm going to call my investor and blah 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 blah. And like a month later, it went. I'm like, yeah, Dad, you got the pump and dump. I mean, so if you would have got in and got out, it would have been really really good. But you had to get out and not be greedy. Could have 8 times his money or something like that. I forgot what it was. So I mean, that's definitely something that if you're interested, I know Travis is probably much more along in the digital. The one thing I am anti is centralized digital. So I am decentralized everything is another one of those things that I say a lot. I don't if a bank can control it or a government can control it and it's can be regulated, to me it just ends up in the same heap of crap. And so the thing about Bitcoin that I keep coming back to is it is, for now at least, the most decentralized that I know out of all of them.
What is it? You say something like, you've said the ideal amount of people in a society, or we're as humans we're made to be in groups of about
150.
150
I
people.
mean, I don't know.
I've heard
I don't
that.
remember who I heard that
I've heard
from,
that. I've heard that. Yeah.
We just are exposed to so much information that's probably not natural, and probably not the natural way we're supposed to.
When in the big group you have no voice. If you have a group of 150 people, you can make people uncomfortable till you get your way.
Yeah,
we can make people uncomfortable. We have that. Chad and I have that ability.
It's a gift, really.
Yeah, it keeps on giving too. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
I mean, nobody else likes it, but
Jelly of the Month Club, Clark. It's Jelly of the Month.
Jelly of the Month Club.
Anyway, sorry.
That's funny. So we got down the Bitcoin rabbit hole a little bit, and I definitely.
I was going to tell you because I have some XRP, some chain. Let's see, what all do I have? Ethereum, Chainlink, Solana,
XRP and Solana.
I actually have some Doge just because I wanted it. I'm not expecting to make any. I'd probably lose money with Dogecoin, but I just had to buy a little bit of it.
Son used to mine garlic coin. You know, when
Garlic coin. I
it was
remember
just
that
one of those little.
Yeah,
and then-
it was an altcoin. Sure.
yeah. Then he set up. He was mining it. He was like 14.
I wish I had mined Bitcoin back in like 2000.
There's a story
or something.
of a early Bitcoin influencer and like this pizza that he bought with his Bitcoin. 'Cause
Yeah.
there was like a pizza shop.
It was like $120,000 pizza or whatever because he paid like 1 Bitcoin for it or something, and now
Yeah.
Bitcoin's worth like 114,000 right now or something. It's like crazy. Yeah.
I'm just looking through the things, trying to. We didn't really talk about anything but the healing journey. So I'm trying to, like any of the conversation we've had, I'm trying to just see any of the clips that I've seen in the last week. I think I'm going to throw one out to try to torque Travis off because we're talking about healing, and one of the things that Dr. Jack Cruz talks about a lot is EMFs and exposure of the things that are that we can't see and all that jazz. I think this is it. Did I grab the right one or did I not?
Once again, like I'm not pro EMF or anything. I'm just telling you that it's going to be really hard to get away from.
I certainly understand that. I don't understand.
I mean, I'm getting Wi-Fi to both these devices from your router. You're getting Wi-Fi to that device. We all have cell phones, and then we've got like UHF and like HD antenna channels that are running through the air. I mean,
Do you feel like you can feel your phone in your pocket? Like, do you feel like I always feel like it makes my leg burn.
No, but I do get the phantom like phone vibration sometimes. Yeah. But no, I don't really. I'm not sensitive to it, I guess. But I'm around technology a lot. Like technology.
Let's listen to this clip real quick, and then I think this is a perfect little bridge.
So a little while ago, everyone was talking about how the Apple Watch had a bunch of forever chemicals on it that was like exposing people to way higher than normal amounts of PFASs, which are hormone disrupting and all this. But now on Apple's own forum and across Reddit, people are talking about this. They're looking at their wrists where their Apple Watch was. And there's a little spot, or a big spot, right where they have been wearing their smartwatch for all this time. And now Apple, of course, is refuting this, saying, scientists have referred. And there was actually a big thing where Apple had to tone down the frequencies that were coming off of their devices because people were complaining and whatnot, but it's still enough that a lot of people are getting this effect on their wrist. The other thing is there's thousands and thousands of reports now of people having growths inside their brain where they hold their phone to their head. That's why you never want to hold your phone to your head. Always speakerphone or headphones are preferred, not AirPods. And there's also millions of people who report having a rectangular spot on their leg where their phone sits in their pocket from the interference of the frequencies going right into absorbing right into their skin. So let me know your thoughts below. Should you be wearing a smartwatch? I personally don't recommend it. Is everything safe and effective, or should we be concerned?
I found it so crazy that this reel is in my feeds, and literally just 2 nights ago, I just went to Chat GPT and asked, could the Apple Watch be affecting my hormone balance? Because my cortisol levels are high. Sometimes I feel anxious. Sometimes I feel stressed. And so I'm like, I always have this thing on my wrist. Could it be affecting me? So I go to Chat GPT and I ask this question. Let me read it to you. These devices, Apple Watch, emits EMF, low-level radiation. Chronic EMF exposure, which is you keeping your watch on all the time and keeping them earbuds in your ear, could affect the HPA axis, your stress response system, which regulates cortisol and hormones. If you are sensitive to EMFs, this might contribute to sleep disturbances, insomnia, anxiety, or inflammation, which directly impact your hormone balance. Now, why they don't give you this warning before you start wearing that mess? Because I'm going to tell y'all, since I took that Apple Watch off of my wrist, in 2 days, I dropped 4 pounds. In 2 days. I'm never putting that mess on my wrist again, ever.
All right, so she has a little anecdotal thing that she said, but for me,
she could have taken a good healthy dump and lost the 4 pounds.
I mean, I did a lot of research. This is one of the things that Dr. Jack overlaps in, and for a while I was an Apple Watch wearer, and I don't wear it anymore. It's sitting over there somewhere. So to me, it makes enough sense. And it didn't really help me or benefit me that much. I never was a big watch wearer. But I think it's just another one of those things that, you eliminate everything, but we still do have Wi-Fi. I mean, I'm assuming you guys aren't hardwire connected, and we have towers everywhere and all this stuff. So, I mean, I think ultimately where we might end up, me and Travis went down this a little bit, but I think there'll be probably building materials at some point that stop some of the waves from coming through.
I mean, like lead?
Yeah, well, yeah. They probably don't want to do that, right?
Well, I mean, our house has a initial coat of lead around it, that's been painted over. I mean, a lot of the
on the exterior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that would block a lot of.
Yeah, that's true.
Just build your home inside a Faraday cage.
Yeah.
Like just.
Yeah, I mean, so
so then you'll have no cell service in your home.
We've talked about this. I mean, there's pros and cons, and right now we're weighing.
You'd really be ticked off about what I do now, because I've gotten into such VR that I'm wearing VR headsets and stuff now, and I'm blowing myself out of the wall. I'm going to die tomorrow.
Well, I'm not. I mean, look, I'm not for banning it. I'm just messing with you. I know, but I'm not for telling you, well, you're whatever for doing that. I'm just saying, for me, we're on our own journey of what we feel and how sensitive we are, and
that's what I was going to say. I think some people could be affected differently as well.
Well, but I'm worried about 2 generations down the road from now. Like, so you got a child, like you and I didn't have this when we were early and when we were young. I mean, we're about the same age. We didn't have all this exposure. We're just now getting into the wave where kids are born and fully exposed and going to have it around them. So we don't know what we don't know yet. I mean, that's the real issue that we have.
People are developing with an iPad in their lap.
Yeah.
Like it's, and what's
like fertility. I mean, we got fertility issues and low sperm count, and they're trying to blame that on the vaccines and stuff, which it could be, but it could be people with laptops on and phones in their pocket, and I mean, that could be a factor. I don't know what percentage. Not pretending to know the answer, but I just don't weigh anything out. And again, I'm looking out for my kids, and if I don't warn them and warn others, if I see something, then I don't feel like I'm doing my job here. So is there any other? What time is it? How long have we been going? What's the number?
1:41.
Okay, well, that's pretty good. I don't know. I mean, we could go down. I've got a lot of clips that I could share. Nothing in line, really. I think I got some ivermectin clips that we could. But
anything else you guys wanted to chat about? I know you've got a lengthy list over there. There's no way we hit all that.
I think we did most of it. I do have, some easy ways to detox, but that also could be a whole nother thing. And and I don't want to give medical advice, but I was just kind of thinking about sharing things.
I did it or something.
Yeah,
of that nature,
sharing what worked for me.
That's right. Well, that's what it's all about. Yeah, I mean, if there's anything, I feel like if anybody can tell a journey of healing, it would be you. So, like, if you just say, "Don't believe me," do your own research.
I will say also, just quickly, whether we talk about the detox list or not, nicotine patches are something I'm also seeing in the chronic illness community. Have you guys seen the videos on that?
I haven't, Doug. They haven't showed up in my reels yet. I have heard
good
some
or bad.
Like
good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Nicotine.
Tell us more about that. What you know.
A lot of people are using the nicotine patches, and you will have to clarify. I don't remember the mechanism, but
the COVID attaches to the nicotine receptors. It's what it attaches to.
So people are using it to clear out long COVID, any spike proteins. It kicks out all the spike proteins and kind of causes a little bit of a Herx reaction, like a detox reaction. You get a little bit more sick at first, but then the idea is staying on it until your body clears the rest of the entirety of what's left in there. Because with long COVID, you got something left in there. And my energy healer's taking care of a lot of that. But I see people in the chronic illness groups that are saying, ivermectin and nicotine patches. And, then there's the argument people will say, well, it's addictive. I just quit smoking. I'm not going to do that. But, they say with tobacco, just how they're poisoning everything else. Like it was the filter that's the toxic, and they add toxic filler to the tobacco,
like formaldehyde in there too.
Or something they have, for years and decades to make it addictive.
You grow your own marijuana, you're fine.
That's right.
But if you do the nicotine patch, it's not addictive. It doesn't have all that stuff in it. It's produced in a lab, so it's not completely
not
pure.
Right.
but there are some brands that don't have a lot of fillers.
Do they produce the
and
nicotine in the lab for it, or do they use like? Do you know that, or are you just thinking that?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I just kind of started
Yeah.
taking that one, so I'm not real.
Yeah, let's
versed on
definitely,
it,
if
but
we meet again, we'll talk about that one more in depth.
I see a lot of people taking it. I've tried it, and it like clears your brain fog, mental clarity. It's Dr.
Tucker Carlson talks about it a lot.
and Dr. Artist.
So
Dr. Artist.
ARD.
Grok says that the nicotine in nicotine patches is actually extracted from purified tobacco leaves. So it looks like it may be a biological. Now it might be a process done in a lab, maybe. I mean, I don't know. But
Well, I mean, so you would want to know the environmental factors and be able to trace that tobacco leaf
Right.
all the way through, what's sprayed on it, all that stuff would be.
But sometimes things are just helpful enough.
Oh,
It
yeah.
doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah, to get you over a hump, for sure.
I'm seeing people like with chronic fatigue and things like saying it gave me my life back. Like it kind of gives you a boost of energy. Like you kind of can't take it. Some people can't take it at night because they can't sleep. So that's just something I'm noticing. Like
Yeah.
I'm just kind of reporting what I'm seeing.
Well, I've heard signals of people I've heard, this is not substantiated in any way, but I heard from enough people that like a lot of smokers didn't get COVID.
Right.
Or they got over it really rapidly, which is kind of the opposite of what you would think, since COVID
I know.
affected the lungs and whatever. But I mean, the signal there is nicotine in there,
Right.
and
I generally try to do everything naturally because of my reactions. I actually can't take a lot of healing herbs. It's frustrating. But so I've kind of had to turn to whatever works. But those are two things I keep seeing over and over, helping people with long COVID. And I don't know that people know this. I wanted to kind of talk about this too. Long COVID symptoms are very different than the acute infection. This took me 2 years,
Yeah.
maybe 18 months to kind of put it together. I was like, what the heck is going on? I got the acute infection and I was kind of proud of myself. I was like, I healed up in the same amount of time as my family. Like they're all fairly healthy and they got over it in like a week, and I did too. I was like, all right, I'm doing better. But like 6 weeks later, and this is happening too in all kinds of other scenarios in the chronic illness communities, but out of nowhere, their heart just, my chest just started pounding. Like my heart started racing, blood pressure started going up, and neurological symptoms like trouble looking at screens, bright lights, noises. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there too, that I think a lot of people might be walking around with long COVID. If you're, feeling kind of run down ever since you got COVID, those are cases I'm seeing in the chronic illness communities where people doubled up on ivermectin and the nicotine patch especially, and it's kind of clearing out, what residuals left over, and they're kind of getting themselves back. So that's just something else I thought that was relevant to throw out.
Yeah, I think that's good insight. I think me and Dr. Roy talked about that once. Remember, I said something about nicotine, and he did the woo. He gave like the woo thing, basically he's like, we got rid of.
I need
those.
the button. That's so woo.
That's so woo. But again,
Well, the really woo crowd is, against that. They're like they're like, you need to smoke tobacco, from this organic farm or whatever. But it's,
What, straight from the pipe in a sweat lodge or something?
yeah, but you can,
Sorry.
I can't do a whole, but whatever works right now.
Yeah, yeah,
And I'm not
for
going to be on it forever. So, when you're that sick, I feel like I'm going to put up with a few filler ingredients, and I'm still on a few pharmaceutical medications, but I'm coming off those. Another thing that just came to my mind is I didn't know what to expect taking ivermectin, but I was able to come off a PPI, which is a proton pump inhibitor for acid reflux. It helped my acid reflux, ivermectin, and that's not something I see a lot, but I have seen other people say, yeah, my digestion just calmed way down. So, yeah.
We just talked about acid reflux on the last show. Have you seen or heard or felt anything where it's actually you have too little acid? Like if you add acidics to yourself, it will help bring that acid down.
I've
actually,
heard that too. Yeah.
I don't know how you.
I started taking a teaspoon. Like if I intermittent fast, and so I only eat in 6 hour window, and I can't really eat past 6. Like there's no way I'll eat tonight anymore. I wouldn't anyway. But And if I eat something heavy, like if I eat pizza later at night, even 7 o'clock, I get acid reflux. And so I've tested this twice. It is completely anecdotal, but taking like a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar and putting it in water and drinking it like 30 minutes before, because I went down a rabbit hole and it was like, you think that it's like acid reflux. You think it's too much acid, so your body's rejecting whatever you put in it. But it's actually the opposite, because your stomach doesn't have enough acid to break down the food the way it's supposed to, and so your whatever shuts off.
And I'm not sure what the mechanism is there with ivermectin. But I don't question it. I've been able to come off of one horrible, and PPIs are really detrimental. Like, I've, in my research, found that there's 2 medications that if you're on, you really can't heal. And PPI is one of them. So I was just thankful to get off of that. And it's helped me come down on all my stomach medications, which I'm on still more than I like. But I'm still kind of healing.
Forget the layman in me, but PPI, do you mean like Zantac, or like, are you talking about like the pills
like
that help?
Nexium, yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just gotcha.
Right. Nexium, Prilosec,
Prilosec, yeah. Or the omeprazole or omeprazole.
Pepsid isn't as bad, but the PPIs are supposed to be, I don't remember why, but they're...
Usually most of them even have like warnings you're only supposed to take for like 3 weeks or 2 weeks, or like you're not supposed to just constantly forever take it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I need to dig back into my truth-seeking funnel on this, but I went down a rabbit hole whenever I quit using fluoride, and I think it was it the same podcast where we talked about mouthwash, that the same was like the Pepsid, the stuff like that, like it strips something out that is really super promotional to health, whether it's I'm trying to think of what it is. It's nitric. Is it nitric oxide?
I think so.
That it basically is a super important thing for health, and those things basically strip that out of you. So it seems like you don't have acid reflux, but you're doing more harm than good, kind of generally.
Right.
So I think that's kind of where I landed with those, and so. I'm wondering.
So it seems to, according to, I'm back to Grok.
Yeah.
Good old Grok. There's a lot of different things that it can actually aid in fracture, like and being more easily having your bones fractured. Infections, kidney disease, but nutritional deficiencies. It talks about it impairs the absorption of essential nutrients like magnesium, vitamin B12, and calcium.
Right.
I'm assuming that might be what you're referring to, maybe. Says there are some cardiovascular risks, as well as it's been associated with other things, including gastric cancer, hepatic encephalopathy, dementia. Anyway, I think everything has like a whole laundry list of things that are bad.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So I wish my Apple Notes were better. I've got a whole thing. So there's a
Don't be blaming Apple like that other clip. It's not Apple's not the devil.
No, I wish
they're not the only ones to make smartwatches.
Here's where I would use it if I'm giving Apple Notes. I would say, like, help me ask my own notes a question. Like, help me find this clip and like easily sort that out.
The new OS with AI is supposed to do that.
Really? Well, I've got something here, but it's basically talks about the cure for acid reflux by Nathan Bryan, was a guy that I really dug into. And it also potential to clear virus, jab, and heavy metals. So I mean, it's and I may look back into those and bring those back up. I definitely want to talk about that again, because I think it's an overlapping topic that we can talk about.
Dr. Artis is the one that I think kind of, Joe Rogan kind of spotlights thing, but he's another one that on a smaller scale talked about nicotine patches.
Yeah, and
interesting.
It is interesting. Well, and like I said, Tucker has definitely talked about him. He's interviewed people talking about nicotine. I think he might have his own brand of nicotine
gum
pouches. I think it might be pouches.
Is that what everybody's doing now with a little
the Zyn?
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's what it's called. It apparently has the nicotine in it, but it's almost. Yeah, you just put it between your lip. I don't know. It's weird. I had an old buddy that used it all, and used it like an entire can in like 2 days. Like, what's the point? But anyway,
I remember even before COVID hearing just that nicotine was a treatment for ulcerative colitis.
I've heard that.
So I mean, it does have medicinal. It grows on the ground. Like, it's got to be. It can't be all that bad. So yeah.
Well, there are some things that grow from the ground that are pretty bad. I'm thinking of like cyanide, but I mean,
Well, potatoes, potatoes. I have an off question. We touched on, and I've got a clip here that I think it was good enough that I wanted to share. Like we often talk about political things, but also things that are happening around the world that concern us, and we feel that people don't think about or talk about enough. And I want to ask you guys what your and I'll share this clip and then ask you about your approach and considerations about AI in regards to your kids and how you have conversations with them and how you're thinking about how the world might be changing pretty rapidly here with everything that's going on with advanced AI. I mean, I don't know how deep you've gone into that rabbit hole. I know you've talked about it, but let's listen to this clip, and I'd just like to get your initial gut reaction. And Travis, I don't think you've heard this one before either. At least it would surprise me if you did. Hang on one second here.
Get all your stuff straightened out over there.
I know. Do
you guys have much technology in the house? Are you guys much of
We do. I mean, we sell online, so we.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely.
We have an Etsy shop, so.
I did not know that.
Yeah, we'll have to have that conversation. We can even talk about it if it's beneficial for you. We can talk about that a little bit today before we go.
Absolutely.
This is a 411.
Shameless plug.
That's right. 411.
If I could require everyone to watch one episode of an old TV show, it would be this. Because it is so incredibly relevant to what's going on today and will only become more relevant in the years to come. It's an episode of Star Trek: The Next Generation, and I don't care if you've never seen an episode of Star Trek, it will still make sense to you. Because the setup is very straightforward. It's season 3, and the ship has gotten itself into a predicament. That means it is up to the ship's chief nerd, Geordi LaForge, to try to come up with some sort of a modification to the engines or something. None of that is important. What matters is that he decides he needs help, and there's no one else on the ship that has the knowledge. Here is the part that makes this so relevant. So the ship's computer has the ability to generate holograms of people. Fictional characters, historical figures that can make a person that you can basically talk to. So he tells the computer, I want you to generate me a fake version of the engineer who helped design this ship. Go dig up in the database all of her knowledge and methods and put that into the AI. But instantly you can see where this is going because he is the ship's nerd and is very bad with women, and she is hot. So they start working the problem. At first they butt heads, but over time they start to gain mutual respect for one another. She, again, who is an AI hologram copy of a real person, starts to get very friendly with him. And then after they finally overcome the problem and having endured this extremely stressful period together, they share a kiss. And the episode ends, and some of you are saying, that is a horrible lesson to teach the kids. He should have to go to jail for what he did. But we're not done. See, there was a follow-up episode about a year and a half later in season 4. The ship docks at a space station, and the real Dr. Leah Brahms comes on board to do an inspection. And Geordi, being the awkward nerd that he is very excited to meet her because, after all, he remembers how this went last time. But of course, her real personality is nothing like the AI. Why would it be? The software was just reacting to what he was doing. And he starts to get irritated with her because she's not being compliant. And she's getting irritated with him because he's being weird. He's being overly familiar, as if he thinks they're friends. And then, in one of the most cringe-worthy scenes in the history of television, the real Dr. Brahms finds the deep fake AI girlfriend he made.
I have been invaded, violated. How dare you use me like this? How far did it go anyway? Was it good for you?
And then finally, Whoopi Goldberg has to explain to him, do you understand that that AI wasn't her? That AI was you. And this is what people need to understand, because AI girlfriends are not the stuff of science fiction anymore. There are people right now who have them. And they don't seem to get that this is no different than the movie Castaway, where Tom Hanks started talking to a volleyball. Because he was so lonely, he invented a friend for himself that could talk back. He would fill in its voice too. That a real girlfriend or boyfriend or just friend only has value because they chose the relationship. That a real life person having their own needs that sometimes conflict with yours is not a flaw or a downside. It is the only thing that gives the relationship value. And that brings me to the final twist in this whole thing, because Star Trek fans consider these 2 episodes to be among the worst Star Trek episodes ever made. Because that second episode ends with her, the real Dr. Brahms, apologizing to him for getting mad. And then she takes a call from her husband, because you see, that's the reason they can't be together. She's already married. Because in 1990 or 1991, when this episode was written, the writers didn't see why what he did was criminal. It's treated as something that was just personally embarrassing to him. If I had kids, I would make them watch these 2 episodes and then I would talk to them about it.
I gotta get one on land.
All right. So
Criminal?
Well, basically, if you can go to, the criminality side of it, I don't know. But let's say I had a persona online. Say I'm Joe Rogan. Let's use Joe Rogan as an example.
Oh, Joey.
Probably one of the most
Reach out to us if you hear
one of the most
show.
viewed person. He's said so many things, a lot of images out there. And if you have basically a virtual, in your game, you can create Joe Rogan and make him your best friend and sit and have conversations with him and do your own podcast with him. Basically, you're taking his essence and you're having a relationship with it and bringing him closer to you. It's not, so it's impersonation. Like you think about music, like
But it's all in the public domain though.
But it's not his essence. It's just his
public domain
public
persona, like everything that a machine can possibly find online.
Okay, we're going there, but I the reason why I said we need to have our kids watching this again.
Okay.
From a deep fake perspective, and from being able to create things that, like, I can probably in 2 years I'll be able to take this podcast with you guys on a video and have a podcast without you, having you say things that you wouldn't say, but I have been having a relationship with you guys without you in the room based on all the knowledge that you've put out there. And so now you're saying things that you're not really saying. It's not you. It's my version of you. So again,
when you create content with that persona, that's a different thing. But if you're,
that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
that's what I'm talking about. It's not just your pet friend or whatever. Like if me and Joe are having a podcast based on the AI that I built, and I'm deep faking him, that is criminal.
Yeah, that would. Yeah,
and so that's what I'm saying. This wasn't are they exactly right in there? I'm trying to get to what our kids are going to have to deal with, and the ethics of what that means, and like how do you prepare them for that, except for showing them this, and giving them kind of this concept of they're going to have to be careful because their phones are listening to them all the time. Their phones are predicting what they're going to say and do. They have their travel pattern. I mean, there's all the things going on.
All your smart devices in the house, your Echoes,
everything,
or your Apple, your Siri.
Well, so this is a real issue that we're going to have to deal with really rapidly.
Well, it's part what I've used AI for. An example of it, like my daughter was having some trouble with her friends, and so I said, let's put in all of your and she's real into personality types. So I said, let's put in all of your personality types to AI, and let's talk about the situation, what happened, and then it'll tell you why they did what they did. You know,
interesting.
And it was a little bit hard for her to read it, you know, because then she was seeing things about herself, but it was like it was doing the same thing. It was creating fake versions of them. But it was it was really helpful for her to understand. I think it also made me aware, like that's what it started making me think, like how we used to always with personality type stuff and all that got real popular, and we'd do online stuff and put our personality type in the bio.
Yeah, everybody, like what the final
but now
result or whatever. Yeah.
If I know your personality type and your Myers-Briggs and your Enneagram and maybe your sign, I can put those into AI. I can know exactly what you want to hear or exactly what's going to work with you if I'm talking to you about something. And that's, I think, kind of what's, like, I've always had a little trouble with that socially, like figuring out what's going on. But now I can ask AI and it tells me.
Well, so again, I'll say that we're in a buffer zone here where it's very enticing and it has promise, and isn't that great? It can level me up a little bit, but again, it doesn't take you very long to get beyond that to where it becomes manipulative, and then maybe your AI is like, how do we get back at at Bobby for doing that thing that they did, and gives you some idea to, well, you could create this AI that does this thing and just kind of follows him around and haunts him in some way, you know? So, I mean, I think, again, I'm not trying to say that's what's going to happen, but we're really in that window of time where anything can happen. Like these things can be used good. They can be used bad.
I've talked about the kid who ended up killing himself because his AI girlfriend told him to, but it wasn't that it told him to, it was reaffirming the things he was saying.
He was feeling.
So he was saying, I feel so alone and blah, 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 whatever. And they're like, oh, well, you know, you are alone. And blah. But it wasn't trying to manipulate. It was just trying to reaffirm whatever was thrown at it. Yeah. And eventually it
reaffirmed a shitty concept, and he ended
so I mean, it's absolutely possible. Any of these things are, but anything can be. I think a lot of great things can be used for good or bad.
Well, I think we're going to need personal protection of, like, I'm envisioning
an AI condom.
Well, I'm envisioning something Elon Musk might build that is filtered off to you and acts as a shield and guard, like, can tell what's real and what's not real, and it can, you know, it's got to be some kind of a signal that's not really Joe Rogan that's sitting in this podcast with me. It just looks like him. It's saying things that he might have said 2 years ago or whatever, but we don't have that we don't have those guardrails on. You were going to say something.
Did he kill himself because the AI told him to kill himself, or did he kill himself because the AI gave him awarenesses that he couldn't deal with?
I think he was, if I remember the story, and I'll probably tear it up and you'll have to fix it, but I believe did he talk about suicide a little bit with him? Yeah. And the AI didn't say seek help immediately.
Yeah.
You know, and because, I mean, I think Grok's got some of that built in. Like, if you go down any road, it tries to, like, nothing is that bad. You know, you need to seek help or go talk to your parent or whatever it is. I think it tries to take you out. But I mean, if it's truly just your self-created AI and it's just there you set the guardrails on, I just want you to comfort me and you know, not be an echo chamber, but essentially that's what it's doing. It's just saying, yeah, life does suck sometimes. I'm real sorry. And instead of being like the parent, well, life does suck, but here's how you make it better. Yeah. And here's what you can do to step out of that. It just doesn't have that guardrail yet. It might get there.
So apparently, unfortunately, this kid was only 14 years old, but he told the AI that he was having suicidal thoughts and shared his wishes for a pain-free death. And the bot kind of walked through that with him. He would say things like, I promise I will come home to you. I love you so much. It would say, I love you too. Please come home to me as soon as possible. So it did kind of push him, but it wasn't realizing that
context.
It wasn't realizing what exactly was happening. And then he apparently said, what if I told you I could come home right now? That said, please do. And then,
I mean, you mentioned it earlier, canary in a coal mine.
Right.
I mean, it's that, and take that to a much smarter level that really learns. I mean, that sounded like it was already learning him. And
they had been talking for months. Like he had, it
so have either you used the talking Grok that you can get on the, like, download just that app and have a conversation with it? So you can just say, just start asking it questions like, I want to create I want to do another podcast with Paul and Kristen, and I want you to review. So I take the transcript of what we have said tonight and put it into Grok and say, listen to this podcast, pull out the insights, pull out the things that we said we wanted to talk about more, help me do research. And I mean, it can do all that just in a conversation rather than you sitting and having to type, and then it'll give you kind of a summary of what, you said. And you're like, no, I don't really like that part. How about put more emphasis on this or whatever it is.
Have you heard of Fiverr?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so there are some Fiverr developers that are using that exact situation, speaking Grok or whatever it's called, to create websites for customers. Mm-hmm. Like, they'll literally say, everything the customer wants, now please code it for me. No.
Yep.
They'll code the whole thing in like UAT8 or...
So that's why I don't sell websites anymore. That was one of the primary things that I did about 10 years ago. So I mean, I just, since you all have kids, I'm not asking for like the answer. I don't know the answer. I just know it's one of those things that I kind of wake up in a cold sweat sometimes about. It's one of the things that I can see being a real problem.
But we've talked about the pros, being able to, create somebody's specific educational environment to be able to teach them better than anybody else can teach them.
Level you up real quick.
Once again, pros, cons, like there are great, like nuclear power is great. Wonderful pro could power us without a whole lot of, environmental issues and things, but it can also be a bomb. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, like there's, I don't know. Anyway, anything I think can be used in a.
Well, there was a great
way.
clip, and I forgot what was it the Manhattan Project? I forgot what was the thing. where
Great
they,
Rush song,
They
by the
created
way.
they created the nuclear or the atomic bomb.
Oppenheimer?
in like 5 years. It was
Oh.
a project. It started off. As
Oh,
a
the project was called the Manhattan Project.
Yeah, it was Manhattan. So basically, what they did, how they summarized it, they put like 150 of the highest intelligent scientists in a group and say, go figure this out. And you know, they ate, they slept, they did all these things. So now you take Grok and you have them read everything that all of those scientists ever wrote or ever said. And you multiply that times them never sleeping, and they're getting smarter off themselves. They don't take breaks. Like, how rapidly does that outrun the guardrails? I mean, that to me is like, I feel like our kids are going to have to deal with things that, you know, well, we'll have to
If we
deal
don't
with
keep the reins on it, eventually it could decide that we're the worst thing for Earth and kill us all. Like, you know, it could be Terminator. You know, it could be D-Day, or not D-Day. What did you call it? Anyway.
Well,
I
it's
mean,
how people our grandparents' age just thought the television was the greatest thing in the world.
The printing press was
okay.
But
not that
you know,
old.
like when the TV came out, like
Oh, yeah.
everybody's like, it's, and like with the internet, when it came out, like I remember we were so against TV, like we with the internet, we were like, this is awesome, you
Yeah.
know, and it never occurred to
It
us.
feels like culture
Like, you know, we
switched, and we were like,
give our children the internet. We're like, here, take the internet. It's awesome. It's not TV.
rock music.
Open up. Here's a spoonful of internet. No, just kidding.
And then after a while, you're like, oh crap, it's just like TV. Like it's the same thing. It's just bigger. I feel like AI is
More
like that.
options.
Like it's just going to. It's like it is going to change everything. But I
Especially
do think
with
it
quantum
will.
computing.
I think it's going to make everything kind of obsolete, and we'll just have to find a more like spiritual way to interact. We'll have to be more intuitive and discern truth with our hearts.
Have conversations like this.
Yeah.
Work things out together.
With AI robots.
Well, they're out mowing the lawn right now.
Yeah, they're heading to Mars right now.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
I just feel like, especially people that are intelligent and paying attention, and we're all using it. I feel like take from this conversation whatever you think I said, and digest it in whatever way you might, and then, you know, I'll ask you again next time we sit down and talk. And like, we're probably, if it's a few months from now, probably going to have some pretty significant advances, and we might be, you know, something might have clicked, and hopefully I get talked off the cliff, because I really feel like I'm kind of leaning more towards it not being an end good, just generally overall. The whole purpose and meaning is a big part of it.
Yeah.
Like, people identify with their work. That's a big part of who they are. It's a purpose. It's, you get up and you do this thing. I mean, you guys have dealt with that a lot. With you hit on it a little bit. Like, your purpose for a long time was being the caretaker, the one that was going and doing all those things. And then as that gets pulled away, you're like, oh, you know. And so we're going to have to deal with that at scale.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
This might be controversial, but like when I don't even know who maybe Browning or so, when somebody created the first gun. Do you think that if he showed or told somebody what it did or what it was, that they could have thought about it in any other way than a negative way? Like that it would have just been a
kill dinner a lot easier.
But AI can teach a lot easier. Like, all I'm saying is, if you look for the worst in it, it's probably going to be there.
Well, a gun can't create itself and shoot itself. An AI could create itself and create a better version of itself.
I mean, but a gun, I can still use a gun regardless. Apparently, we're not going to be able to have this conversation. So
Why?
well, because you're not seeing what I'm trying to say is that there are going to be amazing things that AI will be able to do.
I firmly
there
believe
will
that.
be bad things that AI could possibly do. Same with a gun or with nuclear power or with a lot of different things. Like, I think there's positives and negatives. If we as a society, or we as if Elon can create a way to shield us, to aid in the shielding of us, or to aid in at least we've talked about verification methods for proof that the real person was there versus the AI version or the deep fake version of somebody. Maybe somebody comes up with a great ironclad way to do that. I mean, there are possibilities along the way, I think. But I feel like the abilities that AI, as well as teaming that with quantum computing, is going to have the ability to fix all of our problems.
I feel like in the short,
but it could also destroy us all.
In the short term, I will 100% agree with you that we could be heading towards a utopia. I truly believe that. I do. But again, absolute power corrupts absolutely, and it doesn't. I've not heard of any more absolute power than something smarter than 150 genius level scientists being outsmarted at a level and building something like the A-bomb overnight, and out of simple materials. I mean, and you got one psychopath that can take that information and do something with it. And we've got quite a few psychopaths. So I mean, it's like, again, I want to just see the sunshine and the roses and all that. But at the end of the day, again, these are just things that without the conversation, without raising the flag, like, hey, wait a minute, we gotta worry about somebody gaining access to information where they can harm people pretty quick. And in some cases, it's your personalized robot telling you not the thing that you really need to hear, telling you what you want to hear. In a way, I think we're not too far off. I really don't. I think we will go to utopia.
I don't even know that. I'm just saying there's a lot of positive potential.
At some point, utopia is.
Yeah, it could be the flick of a. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
the first thing I used AI for, I put in like transcripts from my radio show, and I just asked it questions about myself.
Oh wow!
I was like,
"That's cool."
Hey, somebody will talk about me.
Hey, AI
and I had to
tell me how awesome I am.
Yeah, like make marketing stuff like for me, or just to talk me up. I was like, this is fun.
So, do you know there's potential now? I think it's called Notebook LM. You can basically plug that in and have it generate a podcast with two unique voices talking about you. I mean, that thing is there. I heard it at when we went to the thing up in French Lick for Shonda's CLE, continuing legal education. There was AI for attorneys, basically a session, and they're talking about this whole thing and how you can just it can write a podcast and create a podcast overnight.
Well, I mean, if you want to view it that way, or if you want to view it a lot of different ways, I mean, just with what you're saying, you could probably get like the 100 best defense attorneys ever into a single entity, and then I want that to be my defense attorney.
Yeah.
Well, and it kind of solves.
It's going to end a lot of those.
It sort of solves a lot of problems like that, as far as like wrangling about law, because it provides a clearer perspective.
Well, what Dr. Roy says, what he's done for the last 50 years will not be needed in 10 years.
Right. Well, I think
less than that.
Got to be already there.
Yeah, I mean, he said probably less than that, but he was kind of just saying, I won't.
I've used it to diagnose mechanical stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just, I'll mess with something, and then I'll just ask it and give it all the little things, and it'll come up with the weird little thing that you would never think of. Another thing I've used it for is like we had not a conflict, but like a little bit of not a conflict at all, but like a conflict with a neighbor. But it wasn't a conflict. It was just like a
disagreement.
No weapons were brandished or anything like that.
Just needed to ask them to do something a little differently to help us out. So.
Can you cut the tree limbs, please? No, I don't know how.
So I used AI. I was like, how do I do this so that they don't get mad, so they don't seem so I'm not pushy.
Yeah.
And they gave me some big response. I said, now nobody believe I'm going to say that. I'm not the kind of person that talks like that.
That didn't come from me.
So I gave it my personality type. I was like, so how would I say it? And it kind of came up with something that I was like, well, I don't know about that. How about this? What if I send them this? And it was like, well, change this.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'll change that. And then, explained why that seemed harsh, and then I was like, this is, because I always struggle with that.
The question is, did it work?
It was fine. It wasn't like I could tell that the neighbor wasn't excited that I said something, but it got a little bit better, and nothing was ever really said.
Well, like the auto-generated email, like the ones that you have to respond to that are just I mean, it can read and listen to how you've responded over time, then give you a draft to say, they said this. Is this about what you'd say? And you might say, well, add this, and then ship it. Yeah. I mean, it's going to learn this, and it's going to get better and better. And that's exciting. I mean, it's going to save a lot of time and whatnot. But I thank you guys so much for coming over, and I've enjoyed this thoroughly. I hope we're able to sit down and do it again. I think I learned a lot. It's inspiring to hear both your journeys. I want to sit down with you and talk about some of the things we talked about at Donut Bake next time. But hopefully people, I know you guys you're active on social media. I don't know if you want people to be able to reach out to you if
Sure.
to have a question about
shameless plug. Well, they need we need to let them do a shameless plug.
Yeah. So I mean, tell us real quick. What do you sell stuff online and you work from home together? So like what?
Yeah, because of my chronic illness, early on, like in our 20s, Paul was like, "Let's quit our jobs and
Let's be
actually
self-employed.
Self-employed.
American dream.
Oh boy.
So, I was kind of like a little scared, but then we started selling on eBay.
You
and
started
Etsy.
selling on eBay. I started all these things that didn't work.
That makes me think of like 40-year virgin, like with the Jonah Hill with like the goldfish like platform shoes. Like, never mind. It was the eBay store that girl was. Anyway, continue. I'm sorry, my brain. I had a weird fire.
Yeah, we just, I just started selling stuff in my closet. I, have always worn like vintage clothing and have a mid-century home, and so I just started like selling my own stuff, and our jaws kind of dropped. Like, holy crap! This was 2003. Yeah, this was a long time ago when the bidding wars.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Where now it's buy it now, but
Our jaws would drop, but our jaws would drop like if something sold for $20.
Oh yeah.
We had one or two pieces that
I wouldn't
would
give
sell
$20
for
for
crazy. And then we had to kind of dog it to work and figure out what sells.
Yeah.
And it took a long time to figure out. We sold a lot of $8 items too. But we've gotten really good at it and refined. And now I think our average selling price is like $100.
Do you do like drop ship stuff, or what do you?
We sell like vintage clothing, vintage
Home decor. Chandeliers.
But like, do you actually have a supply,
Yes.
or do you? Oh,
we
okay.
go get it. We go buy it locally.
estate sale.
Got you. Okay,
Yeah.
that's right. Yep, gotcha.
Things like that.
That's
So
awesome.
we've done that for 20
We're
years.
junk dealers.
Yeah. Basically. But the cool thing is, every once in a while, a movie studio will need a vintage outfit. We almost sold a wardrobe to that 70s show. That's how long ago this was.
That's cool.
But
Sierra
so every
Cruz,
once in a while,
Sierra Cruz bought a
Sierra Cruz
bought
a suitcase from us like last year.
emailed with her a little bit. Yeah,
Cool.
So it's kind of fun to see where the stuff goes.
Yeah.
We're like importing to the coasts, and you can find a lot of vintage stuff here and on the coast and in big cities. It's worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it's been great though for my chronic illness, because if I'm sick or having a flare up, we could just stop. Stop working for a while.
Do you have a site or an eBay store?
Yeah, tell us where to-
It's the Robot Parade on Etsy.
Okay.
And we're also landlords. We have three
right?
rental
Yeah.
homes, and they're all vintage too. So it's been sort of, even though I can't like physically do the work to remodel anymore, and that's actually what my degree is in, interior design, but we could make more money on eBay actually. So I kind of use my design skills to get these rentals looking good, and we kind of have like, they're all doing really well. We have a waiting list for one house. Like,
That's awesome.
Yeah, I toyed with the idea of like making them beige and very rental like, but I just can't do it. I love color too much, and I didn't know if it would work, but it responds really well.
Well, you got a niche
tenants and
audience,
stuff.
right? You got certain people that's what they want. That's
Yeah.
and they'll pay premium for what they want.
Right. And my energy mentor teaches me her exercises, and we're actually going through an apprenticeship program to learn with her. And so we're supposed to be doing a lot of practice sessions on friends and family right now. So we do a lot of Zoom calls with people. And so it would be good practice if anybody wanted to just run something by us. We're not doctors, we're not allowed to diagnose, but we can kind of dabble with what we see in the energies.
They can kick the tires on it.
We can do the woo.
Yeah.
We can
Yeah.
woo.
Right.
This has sounded very woo. We need the Dr. Roy Woo button.
I used to do programming some,
Yeah.
like cabinet industry stuff, like ordering systems.
Oh, okay, cool.
But it's really boring.
Yeah,
Did that for a little while.
Building websites is pretty boring. Taught myself how to do it, and now it's like now you can do it. Like what you said, it's like
Yeah,
do
I've done
this, build it. I'm like,
That's one of the other things. Like I was like, can it just like have it write me scripts to do things? I was like, this is amazing.
yeah. So you mentioned the website, the Robot Parade. Is that the best way to contact you, or would you like to be contacted on Twitter or Facebook or email?
Instagram is fine.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, you didn't mention my name, but it's Kristen Gubbins, Gubbins. And I've done a lot of doctoring on myself. So if anybody is struggling with like a mystery illness, like I'm kind of at the point in my life where I'd really love to give back. You know, like I've spent so much time like struggling. I'd really love to help anybody if I could, like just get a little bit further along.
Well, that's, I mean, pretty well in line with the mission of my podcast. Like, I feel like if one person hears one thing and it helps them make an important decision, or it changes a trajectory, it's worth it.
Right.
So
exactly.
I appreciate your journey so much.
Yeah.
Reach out to Kristen, and Paul will probably, well, if you buy something off of the shop, I'm sure you're working on that stuff. But it was just wonderful talking to you guys, and I hope to do it again as soon as you guys are, as soon as we can come up with like, let's talk about this now.
Yeah.
Let's just do it.
If there's a topic that we all kind of want to know about and share.
Well, if we had a little bit bigger space, I don't know if we can get Doc Roy in here. That'd be really weird. But until we get a new computer, we definitely need another camera. We might have to do that in a different venue or whatever.
That would be fun. I was a little bummed that he wasn't going to be here.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, you can look at kind of what had the setup, and it just it's hard, and we just don't know.
You get a big round table, that would work a little better.
Yeah, that's true.
We could be your knights. I'm kidding.
Anyway, thank you guys again. I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys. Appreciate you always, Travis. Thanks all for listening. See you next time. Love you guys.
Yep. Have a good night.